Hello there, Wanderers of the Night. Welcome back to Midnight Reddit Tales. We've gathered some of the deepest, most intriguing stories the internet has to hide after dark. If you enjoy these midnight dives, please leave a like, subscribe, and join our nocturnal community. Now let the shadows fall. And let's jump straight into the tales.
Story 1.
Rachel and Ben had been married for 6 years. Their life in a quiet Charlotte suburb revolved around their 4-year-old daughter, Lily. Rachel, a wedding planner, thrived in her fast-paced career, while Ben, a software tester, offered steady support. Their marriage, however, had reached a rough patch. Ben's long hours and Rachel's late-night events left little room for connection. One evening at a client's cocktail party, Rachel ran into her ex, Ethan, a charming photographer she had dated in college. What began as nostalgic drinks became an unforgettable night of reckless passion. While Ben waited at home, unaware, Rachel slipped into their house at 3 a.m., her heart racing with guilt. Ben was asleep on the couch. Lily's toys were scattered nearby, a painful reminder of her betrayal. She told Ben she'd been working late, but Ethan's familiar touch had reignited old sparks, pulling her into a moment of weakness. Rachel swore it was a one-time mistake, fueled by wine and nostalgia, not love. She showered, trying to wash away the guilt, but Ben's gentle snoring haunted her. She promised herself she would bury the night, believing silence could protect their family. The next morning, Rachel played the role of devoted wife, making breakfast for Lily as Ben left for work. Then her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Last night was incredible. Again soon." Panic seized her. She deleted the message and blocked his number, desperate to erase the mistake. Ben noticed her unease and asked if she was okay, but Rachel brushed it off as work stress. His trusting smile hurt more than any accusation. She immersed herself in Lily's routine, hoping normalcy would bury her secret. But the truth has a way of surfacing. Days later, a mutual friend, unaware of Rachel's betrayal, mentioned seeing her and Ethan looking close at the party. Ben's expression tightened, though he didn't press. Rachel's heart raced. She lied, saying it was just catching up. But Ben's silence spoke volumes. He had sensed her distance, her late nights, and now this. That evening, he checked their shared calendar and noticed inconsistencies in Rachel's work hours. Instead of confronting her, Ben called the friend, who innocently revealed that Ethan had bragged about reconnecting with Rachel. The truth hit Ben like a sledgehammer. When Rachel came home, Ben was waiting, his voice calm but cold. "You were with Ethan that night, weren't you?" Her denial collapsed under his steady gaze. Tears fell as she confessed the one-night betrayal, swearing it meant nothing and begging for forgiveness. Ben's response was measured. "I waited for you. I trusted you." He moved into the guest room, needing space to think. Lily's laughter the next morning was a painful contrast to their shattered trust, and Rachel knew her unforgettable night had cost her everything. They tried counseling for Lily's sake. Rachel poured out her regret, explaining how she had felt invisible in their routine, how Ethan's attention had been a brief escape. Ben admitted his long hours had left her lonely, but the betrayal was a choice he couldn't forget. They set boundaries, No contact with exes. Complete transparency. But the wound was still raw. Lily's bedtime stories became their neutral ground, her innocence pushing them to try. Rachel cut all ties with Ethan, yet Ben's trust lingered like a ghost, haunting every interaction. Months passed in a fragile truce. Rachel worked to rebuild, taking on fewer events to focus on family. Ben, scarred, devoted himself to Lily's school activities, finding comfort in her joy. They coexisted with a careful civility. Therapy helped Rachel confront her recklessness, but Ben's guarded looks reminded her of the night she had thrown it all away. The truth, revealed by a careless comment, forced them to face the distance between them. Still, it might not be enough to save their marriage. At Lily's dance recital, Rachel and Ben sat side by side, clapping as she twirled. But their hands never touched. The night with Ethan remained a scar. Rachel's guilt, a heavy shadow. Ben hadn't decided on divorce, but his heart wasn't fully committed to reconciliation. Rachel's mistake had fractured their marriage, exposing cracks they had long ignored. They weren't enemies, just two people bound by a daughter, navigating the aftermath of one reckless night. One evening, as they tucked Lily into bed, Rachel caught Ben's eye. There was a flicker of their old warmth, buried beneath pain. Her unforgettable night had been a betrayal, not a romance, and its cost was clear. A marriage on the edge. They fought for Lily, hoping for a chance to heal, though the road was long. Rachel's heart ached knowing her moment of weakness had rewritten their story, perhaps forever. In their quiet home, Rachel kept a photo of Lily as a reminder of why she kept trying. Ben's trust, broken that night, had fractured them. Yet they weren't finished. The truth had surfaced, forcing them to confront their flaws. Their love, once vibrant, was now fragile. But for Lily, they held on, hoping time could mend what one night had shattered.
Story 2.
The first 48 hours with our son were a beautiful, terrifying, sleep-deprived blur. My wife Sarah was a warrior. I was just the guy running on coffee and adrenaline trying to remember how to swaddle and not screw anything up. We brought him home, this tiny 7-pound miracle, and for one perfect evening it was just the three of us, our little family. We named him Alec. Not Alexander, just Alec. It felt strong, clean, and simple. It felt like him. The next day, the family pilgrimage began. My parents cried, Sarah's parents cried, everyone cooed over Alec, calling his name perfect. Then my sister Chloe arrived. She breezed in, dropped a gift bag on the counter, and peered into the bassinet. "Oh, he's so tiny," she said before looking up at me. "So, Alec. You mean Alex, right?" I smiled, still running on the high of being a new dad. "No, Alec. A-L-E-C. Chloe's face pinched just for a second. It was a look I knew well, the one she got right before offering an opinion nobody asked for. "Oh," she said, the single syllable loaded with judgment. "Okay. Well, you know, everyone is just going to call him Alex anyway. You probably should have just gone with that." Sarah, who was sitting on the couch nursing a cup of tea, shifted uncomfortably. "We liked Alex," she said, her voice quiet. "It's the name we chose, Chloe," I added, trying to sound breezy and final. Chloe just shrugged and changed the subject to the hideous diaper bag she'd bought us. But the damage was done. A tiny crack had appeared in our perfect little bubble. For the next few days, Chloe was cold. Her texts were one-word answers. She ignored a picture I sent of Alec in his first bath. It was classic Chloe sulking. I'd seen it a million times ever since we were kids, and I got the video game console she wanted for Christmas. I figured she'd get over it. It was a stupid thing to be weird about. I was wrong. A week after Alec was born, she called me while I was rocking him to sleep. Sarah was in the shower, her first real break of the day. "Hey, what's up?" I whispered, pacing the nursery. "I need to talk to you about the baby's name," she said, no preamble. My spine stiffened. "Chloe, we're not having this conversation again." "No, you need to listen," she insisted, her voice gaining an urgent, almost frantic edge. "I've been thinking about it nonstop. It's just a dumb name, Connor. I'm sorry, but it is. It sounds incomplete, like you got halfway through Alex and gave up. He's going to have to correct people his entire life." I stopped pacing. Alex stirred in my arms and I started rocking again, my movements jerky with anger. "It's our son. We chose it. It's done." "But it's not," she said, her voice rising. "It's a mistake. A stupid, trendy mistake, and you shouldn't have chosen it. I'm just trying to save you from future embarrassment." I heard the bathroom door creak open down the hall. "Sarah?" "Chloe, I'm hanging up now," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm just saying what everyone else is too polite to say." I ended the call and shoved my phone in my pocket, my hand trembling. I walked out of the nursery to see Sarah standing in the hallway wrapped in a towel, her face pale. She'd heard. I saw it in her eyes, that flicker of doubt, that fresh wave of anxiety that was already consuming her. The postpartum anxiety had hit Sarah like a truck. She was barely sleeping, even when Alec was. She worried about everything, if he was warm enough, if he was eating enough, if she was holding him right. She was fragile, second-guessing every single instinct. And now my sister had just lobbed a grenade into her fragile confidence, basically telling her she'd failed at the very first task of motherhood, naming her child. "Don't listen to her," I said, my voice softer than I felt. "She's being ridiculous." Sarah just nodded, not meeting my eyes, and disappeared into our bedroom. I knew she wouldn't just brush it off. It would sit there and fester, another thing for her anxious mind to latch onto. For 2 days, there was silence. I didn't reach out to Chloe, and she didn't reach out to me. I was hoping, praying she'd finally dropped it. I focused on Sarah, trying to rebuild the confidence Chloe had shattered. I kept telling her how much I loved the name Alec, how perfect it was, how perfect times he times was. She would smile, but it never quite reached her eyes. Then this afternoon, my phone buzzed. I was sitting on the floor trying to assemble a baby swing that looked like it required an engineering degree. Sarah was on the couch with Alex sleeping on her chest, a rare moment of peace. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Chloe. My stomach dropped. My hands were shaking as I opened it. It wasn't an apology. It was an ultimatum. Asterisk, asterisk, I've spoken to Mom and Dad, and they agree with me. This isn't just my opinion anymore, it's a family opinion. You need to take it on board and change the name. If you won't do that, you at least need to go correct the spelling on the birth certificate to Alex. It's not too late to fix this. Asterisk, asterisk. I stared at the glowing screen, the words burning into my retinas. Asterisk, correct the spelling. Fix this. Asterisk. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, shaking with a rage so pure and cold it felt like ice water flooding my chest. Beside me, Sarah stirred. Alec was still asleep on her, his tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm of perfect peace. A peace my sister seemed hell-bent on destroying. "What is it?" Sarah whispered, her eyes tracking the rigid line of my jaw. I didn't say a word. I just turned the phone and let her read it. I watched her face crumble. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet, devastating collapse. The light in her eyes just went out. Her shoulders slumped, and she pulled Alec a little closer, as if to shield him from the words on the screen. That was it. That was the last straw. I stood up carefully, placing the half-assembled baby swing parts on the floor, and walked into the kitchen. I hit Chloe's contact and put the phone to my ear. She answered on the second ring, her voice smug. "Did you get my text? I think it's for the bee." "Listen to me very carefully," I cut her off, my voice dangerously low. "You will not contact me or Sarah about this again. Not by text, not by phone, not by carrier pigeon. Do you understand?" There was a stunned silence. "Excuse me, I was just..." "No," I snapped the word like a gunshot in the quiet house. "You don't get to just anything. Your opinion on my son's name is useless. It is worthless. It means absolutely nothing to me, and even less to Sarah. The only thing it's doing is causing pain to a new mother who is already going through hell, and I will not allow it." "How dare you?" she shrieked, her voice cracking with indignation. "I'm just sharing a family opinion. Mom and Dad agree with me." "I don't care if the Pope himself agrees with you," I retorted, my voice rising. "This is not a family opinion situation. This is my son, my wife, my family. There are some topics that are completely off limits. And this is the biggest one. You have crossed a line you can't even see anymore, Chloe. You're being a bully, Connor. I'm your sister." "Then act like it," I was yelling, now pacing the kitchen tiles like a caged animal. A sister would have brought a casserole and told my wife she was doing a great job. A sister would have held her nephew and said his name was perfect because times is perfect. You have done nothing but try to tear down the first real decision we've made as parents. So we're done. This conversation is over permanently." I hung up before she could say another word. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I leaned against the counter, breathing heavily, the silence of the house pressing in on me. When I walked back into the living room, Sarah was looking at me, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered, her voice thick. "Yes," I said, my own voice shaking. "I really did." The fallout was faster and more brutal than I could have imagined. 2 hours later, while I was finally wrestling the last screw into the baby swing, my mom called. "Connor, what on earth did you say to your sister? She is absolutely beside herself." I didn't even try to soften it. I told her to leave us alone. She said you called her opinion useless and screamed at her. My dad's voice chimed in from a speakerphone. "She was just trying to help, son. We all think Alec is a bit unconventional. Alex is just a stronger name." I felt a fresh wave of fury so potent it made me dizzy. Unconventional. It's a name. It's not like we named him Xylophone. And she wasn't helping, she was demanding. She sent Sarah a text telling us to go change the birth certificate. After I already told her to stop. Well, her delivery might have been a bit off, my mother conceded, but her heart was in the right place. "You were far too harsh, Connor. She's your family. You owe her an apology." I laughed. It was a hollow, ugly sound. "An apology? Are you kidding me? You want me to apologize for defending my wife and my son?" "You need to learn that not everything is a personal attack," my dad said, his tone dripping with paternal disappointment. "You've completely overreacted and hurt your sister's feelings. Frankly, we're very disappointed in you." Disappointed. The word hit me like a physical blow. They weren't disappointed in Chloe for her cruelty, for her relentless harassment of a woman struggling with postpartum anxiety. They were disappointed in me for standing up to it. "Okay," I said, my voice flat and dead. "I see how it is. I have to go. Alec needs a diaper change." I hung up on them too. I didn't have the energy for another fight. I stood there in the living room, the garish, colorful baby swing finally assembled a monument to a life that was supposed to be joyful, but now felt like a battlefield. My own parents. They had sided with her. I was completely on my own. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the soft breathing of my wife and son. Sarah had finally fallen into a deep, exhausted sleep. I watched them for a long time, this perfect little unit I had fought for, and a corrosive doubt began to creep in. Was I too harsh? Did I overreact? The words my dad said echoed in my head. Asterisk, you've hurt your sister's feelings. Asterisk, in their eyes, I was the villain. I was the one who broke the peace, not Chloe. They had me questioning my own reality, my own justifiable anger. I slipped out of bed and went to the living room, the glow of my laptop screen cutting through the darkness. I felt isolated, cornered, and furious. I needed an outside perspective. I needed to know if I was crazy. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing out the whole miserable story. The first visit, the phone call, the ultimatum, the showdown. I described Sarah's anxiety, my parents' betrayal, and the soul-crushing feeling of being ganged up on by the people who were supposed to be my biggest support. I typed until my fingers ached and my eyes burned. When I was done, I stared at the blinking cursor at the end of the post. I gave it a title, a simple, desperate question for a jury of anonymous strangers. Am I the bad guy for telling my sister her opinion on my son's name is useless and worthless? I took a deep breath. And I clicked post.
Story 3.
Everything started in early March when my wife Natalie came home from work one Tuesday evening, absolutely electric with excitement about something new. She'd discovered this women's empowerment group on Instagram called the Minneapolis Women's Empowerment Circle through some targeted advertisement. She pulled up their profile to show me, filled with inspirational quotes about female solidarity, supporting each other without judgment, and living your authentic truth without apology. I thought it seemed harmless enough at first glance. Everyone needs friends and community, right? I was actually genuinely supportive of the idea initially. The first couple of weeks appeared completely innocent and positive. Natalie attended Saturday morning coffee meetups and Wednesday evening book discussions at various cafes scattered around the city. She'd return home genuinely energized and happy, talking enthusiastically about how refreshing it was to connect with women who understood her perspective on life and could relate to her experience. I was sincerely pleased she'd found something that brought her genuine joy. Our marriage had been rock solid for 9 years. No major problems to speak of. Just the typical ups and downs any long-term couple experiences together over time. But around the 3rd week mark, I started noticing some concerning changes in her behavior and attitude toward me. The meetups became dramatically more frequent, jumping from twice weekly to 4 times, then 5 times per week. The evening events started running significantly later each time, without explanation. What began as 10 p.m. arrivals home turned into midnight return. Then she'd stumble through the door at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night when she had to be at work by 8 a.m. the next morning. Whenever I'd asked where she'd been or expressed basic concern about her safety coming home alone at those hours, she'd immediately become defensive and hostile toward me. I don't need to report my whereabouts to you like I'm some teenager with a curfew. She'd snap at me aggressively. I wasn't asking for detailed reports or seeking permission for her activities whatsoever. I was asking because when your wife of 9 years comes home at 2 a.m. reeking of cigarette smoke and wearing cologne, that definitely isn't yours. You naturally wonder what's actually going on. That's not controlling behavior, in my opinion. That's being a concerned, caring partner in a committed relationship. Her entire vocabulary and manner of speaking shifted dramatically too. Like someone had handed her a specific script to memorize word for word. Suddenly, every simple question I asked was immediately labeled controlling behavior or toxic masculinity. Every legitimate concern I expressed was me trying to reclaim my power over her, or emotional manipulation. When I gently mentioned that her new friends seemed to have considerable drama in their personal lives, based on their very public social media posts, I was threatened by female solidarity and couldn't handle her having independence. It genuinely felt like talking to a complete stranger who'd memorized some relationship conflict handbook. I started paying much closer attention to who these women actually were in real life, beyond the inspirational quotes. The group leader was a woman named Sienna, only 27 years old but already divorced once at that young age. Her Instagram feed was absolutely filled with posts about her extremely complicated, on again, off again relationship with a married university professor who kept making promises to leave his wife, but never actually did. Then there was Bailey, who had 3 children with 3 completely different fathers. She constantly posted their private text message conversations online, while simultaneously complaining they were all deadbeat dads, conveniently ignoring the fact that she collected substantial child support payments from every single one of them. And Sutton was currently on her 3rd engagement to yet another different man, while simultaneously pushing some multi-level marketing pyramid scheme every other week. Each new venture supposedly being the real opportunity I've been waiting for. These were the specific women my wife had deliberately chosen as her primary life advisors and mentors on relationships. 3 people who collectively couldn't maintain a single stable long-term relationship between them. Yet they were confidently teaching her about marriage, healthy boundaries, and self-respect. One Tuesday evening in mid-March, everything reached a breaking point that fundamentally changed everything between us. We were sitting at our kitchen table, eating Chinese takeout directly from the paper cartons, something we used to do every single week back when we first got married. Back when things were simple and comfortable between us. I made what I thought was a completely reasonable observation about her needing to go out 3 separate times that particular week alone. Natalie looked me dead in the eye across our kitchen table like I just physically slapped her across the face. I decide where I go and who I spend my time with, Marcus. You don't get a vote or say in that anymore. Period. End of discussion. I carefully set down my fork and really studied her face closely for a long moment. She'd noticeably changed over the past few weeks. New expensive jewelry I'd never seen before. A distinct sharpness in her eyes that hadn't been present a month earlier. The aggressive way she held her chin up high like she was constantly bracing for a confrontation or fight. I'm not trying to control who you spend time with, I said calmly, keeping my voice level and measured. I'm simply asking why you need to go out 3 separate times in just 1 week. Because I want to, because these are my friends and we genuinely support each other. We don't judge each other's choices like certain other people seem to constantly do around here. The obvious irony of her judging me, while simultaneously talking about not judging others, wasn't lost on me whatsoever. But I deliberately kept that particular observation to myself for the moment. So when I ask where you're heading at 10 p.m. on a work night, that's me trying to control you? Her face immediately flushed bright red with anger. Yes, frankly it is. I'm an adult woman. I don't need permission to leave my own house. I never once said you needed permission from me. I asked because I genuinely care about your safety and our relationship together. She abruptly stood up from the table, her chair scraping loudly and harshly against the kitchen floor. This is exactly what they specifically warned me you'd do. Turn everything around and make me feel guilty for simply wanting some independence. They? I knew exactly who she meant. The women from her empowerment circle that she'd known for barely a month. Except from everything I could directly observe, it wasn't about genuine empowerment at all. It was primarily about drinking wine at completely inappropriate hours and endlessly complaining about their husbands and relationships. But apparently these were the specific people my wife of 9 years had chosen to trust over her own husband. Independence is absolutely fine and healthy, I said very carefully, choosing my words deliberately. But when your version of independence includes regularly coming home at 2 a.m, smelling distinctly like cigarettes and someone else's cologne, maybe we should have an honest discussion about what's actually happening here. Her voice dropped to something cold and frighteningly final. Maybe I don't owe you detailed explanations anymore about anything I do. Maybe I've been living my entire life according to what you think is appropriate and acceptable for far too long. The kitchen went completely silent, except for the steady hum of the refrigerator in the background. I really looked at her then, truly seeing her clearly. This wasn't the woman I married 9 years ago. This wasn't even remotely the same woman from 6 months earlier. "All right," I said finally after a long pause. "You're absolutely right about that, and your friendships are completely your choice. Your decisions are entirely your choice to make." She blinked rapidly, clearly expecting much more of a fight or argument from me. "Good. Finally, you understand. And since we're having an honest conversation about choices and independence, I've got some significant choices of my own to make as well." The confidence in her expression flickered noticeably for just a brief second. What's that supposed to mean exactly? I stood up slowly and started clearing away the dishes from the table methodically. "It means if you want complete independence in all your choices, then I deserve the exact same independence in mine. That's only fair, isn't it?" She followed me directly to the sink, her tone shifting slightly. "Don't be overly dramatic about this. This is about friendship and personal growth, not about our marriage." "Is it really, though?" I turned around to face her directly. "Because from where I'm currently standing, you're getting serious life advice from women who fundamentally can't maintain their own relationships. 3 divorces between the 3 of them, 4 children with completely absent fathers, 7 different jobs lost in just the past year alone. But absolutely, they're perfectly qualified to tell you how to live your life." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "Don't you dare insult my friends like that." "I'm not insulting anyone at all. I'm simply making a factual observation based on publicly available information they've posted themselves. But you're completely right. It's not my place to judge anyone." I paused very deliberately for emphasis. "Your choices are deeply personal." The specific way I emphasized the word personal made her pause and reconsider the conversation. She wasn't stupid by any means. She could clearly hear the fundamental shift in my tone, could sense that something had changed permanently between us in those few moments. "What exactly are you planning to do?" she asked cautiously. "Nothing particularly dramatic at all. Just exercising my own right to make personal choices." She stared directly at me for a long, tense moment, trying hard to determine if I was bluffing about something. I absolutely wasn't bluffing. "Fine," she said eventually, turning away from me. "Maybe now you'll finally understand what real independence actually looks like and means." "Oh," I replied very quietly. "I'm definitely about to understand it extremely well." The entire situation had been steadily escalating over the previous 4 weeks. But that specific kitchen conversation was the definitive turning point for everything. I spent about 20 minutes that night on Instagram finding the group. Amazing how much people share publicly when they think nobody's paying attention to their posts. The profile was semi-public, visible enough to see the dynamics clearly at play between members. The feed was filled with wine bottles captioned "Self-Care Sunday" and quotes about leaving dead weight behind without regret. Photos from bars with hashtags like "Freedom Feels" and "No Apology." The comments section was a constant stream of members bashing their partners, cheering each other on for increasingly questionable behavior. One post particularly caught my attention. It was from 2 Saturdays ago, posted at 2 in the morning, a group photo at some uptown bar. Natalie was clearly visible in the photo, laughing, holding a cocktail. Her comment read, "Best night ever, finally feeling alive." The problem was she specifically told me she was at Sienna's apartment watching movies that night. I screenshot everything methodically. Call it paranoia or preparation, but something told me I'd need documentation eventually. 3 days later, on a Friday afternoon, Natalie came downstairs with a weekend bag already completely packed and ready to go. I immediately noticed she'd purchased new clothes. Expensive designer ones I'd never seen before. The overnight bag itself was brand new too. Probably cost several $100s easily. The group is doing a wellness retreat up north this weekend, she announced matter-of-factly. Leaving right after work today. Back Sunday evening. I looked up from my coffee at the kitchen counter. A wellness retreat in March? It's going to be freezing up there. We're staying at the Suites Hotel in Duluth with complete spa amenities and everything. Very high-end and exclusive. I nodded slowly, deliberately noticing brand new lingerie visible in her half-opened bag. Price tags still visibly attached to everything. Sounds quite expensive. It definitely is expensive. But we all decided together we absolutely deserve it. She paused, looking at me challengingly. Honestly, when's the last time you spent money on something that genuinely made you happy? Interesting question to ask, considering I'd spent my entire lunch hour the previous day researching qualified divorce attorneys in the Minneapolis area. You're absolutely right, I said evenly. Maybe it's definitely time I started seriously investing in my own happiness too. Something specific in my tone clearly caught her attention. What kind of investment are you talking about? Personal choices and decisions. Remember that conversation we just had? I'm completely sure you'll understand. Sienna picked her up at exactly 5 p.m. sharp. I watched from our front window as all 4 women piled into the car together, already actively passing a flask between them, before they'd even backed out of our driveway completely. Natalie never looked back at the house, even once. Not a single glance. The exact moment her car disappeared around the street corner, I immediately went into focused action mode. First call was to my old college friend Landon in Chicago, who's an attorney, though he doesn't specifically practice family law himself. I need some information. Hypothetically speaking, how exactly does divorce work in Minnesota? There was a significant pause on his end. This about Natalie? Just gathering information and options for now. Landon sighed heavily. Minnesota's a no-fault divorce state. Means you don't need to prove any specific wrongdoing. Just that the marriage is irretrievably broken beyond repair. Usually takes a few months total if it's uncontested by both parties. Why? What's happening with you two? I gave him the abbreviated version of events. The new toxic friends, the increasingly late nights out, the repeated lies about her actual whereabouts, this wellness retreat being planned with brand new lingerie involved. Jesus Christ, Landon said when I'd finished explaining everything. Look, I know an excellent guy in Minneapolis, Harrison Walsh. He's extremely sharp and doesn't mess around at all. Want me to send you his direct contact information? Yeah, definitely send it over. You absolutely sure about going down this path? Once you officially start the process, it's extremely hard to walk back from it. I'm not starting anything yet. I'm just making informed personal choices based on available information. All right, man. I'll text you his number right now. And Marcus, document absolutely everything you possibly can. Everything. Already doing that. I spent the next several hours methodically documenting our entire shared life together in careful detail. I carefully photographed every single room in our house, every piece of furniture we'd purchased together over the years, every appliance, every small detail of our shared existence. I pulled copies of all our financial records, bank statements, our official marriage license, all insurance documents, everything important and legally relevant. I'd already been systematically screenshotting Natalie's Instagram posts and the group's posts for 3 solid weeks. So I organized all those into detailed folders with accurate dates and timestamps for everything. Then came the practical financial matters that needed immediate handling. I opened my laptop and transferred exactly half of our joint savings account into a completely new personal account I'd set up the previous day. $18,400 exactly, down to the precise penny. Fair is fair. Then I started carefully packing 2 large suitcases with all essentials I'd absolutely need. Clothes, toiletries, important personal documents, things I'd need if I wasn't coming back to this house ever again. My younger brother Wyatt lives in Milwaukee, approximately 3.5 hours away by car. I called him immediately. Hey, can I crash with you for a while? How long is a while exactly? It might be permanent. Jesus. What the hell happened? I'll explain everything when I get there. Is your guest room currently available? Yeah, absolutely, of course. You doing okay? I will be eventually. Saturday morning at 9:47 a.m., I received a text from Natalie. Just finished our morning yoga session. So incredibly relaxing and peaceful. I immediately pulled up the Suites Hotel Duluth's official website. Absolutely no yoga facilities listed anywhere in their amenities section. Exactly 10 minutes later, Sienna posted an Instagram story showing all 4 women at the hotel bar holding mimosas. Duluth's skyline was clearly visible through the large windows behind them. Natalie was clearly visible in the background, laughing loudly, her hand resting casually on some random guy's shoulder. I immediately saved the screenshot with timestamp. The afternoon passed quietly as I systematically loaded my truck with all the packed items and boxes. My neighbor Delilah saw me from her front yard working. Going somewhere, Marcus? Just making some important personal choices, Delilah. She gave me a very knowing look that clearly said she understood far more than I'd actually stated out loud. Well, you take good care of yourself then. I definitely will. Thank you. At exactly 7:23 that evening, my phone rang unexpectedly. Unknown number displayed on screen. Hello? Hey man, is this Marcus? Male voice, mid-30s, noticeably slightly intoxicated. Who's asking? Look, I'm currently at the Canal Park Bar up in Duluth right now. Your wife is here actively telling everyone she's separated from you. Just thought you should definitely know before things went any further tonight with these guys. My hand tightened involuntarily on the phone. Before what exactly? Before anything actually happens between them? She's buying rounds of drinks for everyone here. Took her wedding ring completely off her finger, actively telling people she's single and ready to move on with her life. My younger sister went through this exact same thing last year. Her so-called friends convinced her to completely trash her marriage for absolutely no good reason whatsoever. Totally destroyed her entire family. I just thought you genuinely deserved to know what's actually going on up here tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to call me about this. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Good luck with everything. He disconnected. I sat there motionless for a moment, phone still in my hand, feeling something cold and absolutely final settle deep in my chest. Then I immediately checked Instagram again. Bailey had posted exactly 7 minutes ago a group photo from the Canal Park Bar, precisely where the anonymous caller said they were located. Natalie was front and center wearing a tight red dress I'd absolutely never seen before in my life. No wedding ring visible anywhere on her finger. She was sitting close between two men, laughing at something one of them had apparently said. The caption read, "Girls' Weekend. Freedom Weekend. Living my best life." Already 47 enthusiastic comments, mostly from other group members. You absolutely deserve this. Finally breaking free. Your happiness matters most. I saved that screenshot too with the timestamp. That night I sat alone at our kitchen table and wrote a letter completely by hand. Not typed on computer, handwritten deliberately. More personal that way. More real and impactful. I kept it simple and purely factual. No anger, no begging, no pleading whatsoever. Just the complete truth laid out in clear, direct terms she couldn't misunderstand. Natalie, you wanted to decide who you spend time with without any input from me. I completely respect that choice. You said I don't get a say in your decisions. You were absolutely right about that. Independence means living with all the consequences of your choices, not just the fun parts you enjoy. You told complete strangers this weekend that you were separated. I'm making that statement true starting now. Divorce papers will be filed Monday morning. My attorney will contact you Tuesday. You're free now. Completely free to live however you want. This is what you said you wanted. Marcus. I placed the letter in an envelope on the kitchen table. Then I removed my wedding ring for the first time in 9 years and set it directly on top of the envelope. By midnight, my truck was completely loaded with everything. I took one final look around the house we'd purchased together 5 years ago. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinners together, the living room where we'd watched movies on weekends, the bedroom where we'd made plans for a future that was never going to happen now. Then I locked the front door, left my house keys on the kitchen counter next to the letter, and drove to Milwaukee. Sunday afternoon, I was unpacking boxes in Wyatt's guest room when my phone started ringing constantly. Unknown number. Then another immediately. Then another right after. Wyatt poked his head in the doorway. "Dude, you're seriously popular today. It's Natalie using different people's phones to call me. You gonna answer any of them?" Absolutely not. The text messages started flooding in at 2:34 p.m. Marcus, answer your phone now. At 2:41. This isn't funny anymore. Where are you? At 2:55. I came home early. Why is the house like this? Where are all your clothes? At 3:12. Call me immediately. At 3:28. Found your letter. This is completely insane. We need to talk right now. I sent exactly one text message back. Check the kitchen table. Everything you need to know is there. Your independence starts now. Then I blocked all the unknown numbers and powered off my phone completely. Wyatt had been monitoring Natalie's social media through a fake account he'd quickly created specifically for this purpose. He showed me what she was currently posting online. An Instagram story at 3:45 that was deleted within minutes. But he'd screenshot it first. A crying selfie with the caption, "When you realize you made the biggest mistake of your entire life." A Facebook post at 4:02, "Has anyone seen Marcus Bradford? Emergency. Please message me immediately if you know anything." The comments flooded in from her group members asking what happened and if she was okay. But the enthusiastic support and cheerleading she'd received all weekend long was notably completely absent now that real consequences had actually arrived. Monday morning, I sat across from Harrison Walsh in his downtown Minneapolis office. He was in his 50s, distinguished gray hair, sharp, observant eyes that had probably seen every possible version of this story play out countless times. I handed him the comprehensive folder I'd carefully prepared over the weekend. Screenshots organized chronologically, detailed timeline of all events, documentation of her lies and whereabouts, photos from the weekend showing her without her wedding ring on, financial records showing the equal split I'd already made. He flipped through it silently for several long minutes, examining everything carefully. This is remarkably thorough documentation. I'm a professional data analyst. I know how to analyze and document properly. Minnesota's a no-fault divorce state, so we don't technically need to prove wrongdoing or infidelity. But this documentation helps establish a very clear timeline and pattern of abandonment. I can file all the paperwork today, and she'll be officially served tomorrow. Are you absolutely certain this is final? Once it's in motion, it's extremely difficult to stop the process. I thought about her hand on that stranger's shoulder in the bar photo, her missing wedding ring in the pictures, the text I'd seen on her phone about perfect timing, her actively telling strangers she was separated. She was certain enough when she took off her ring and told complete strangers she was separated from me. I'm just making her version of reality actually true. Harrison nodded once firmly. All right then, let's proceed with filing. By Monday afternoon, Natalie had somehow tracked down Wyatt's apartment address. His girlfriend spotted her car sitting in the apartment parking lot from their window. She's been sitting there for over 30 minutes now, Wyatt told me over the phone. Looks really rough, man. You absolutely sure you don't want to talk to her at all? I'm completely sure. She's actively crying in her car. She made her choices deliberately. Now she gets to live with all of them. That evening, Natalie tried calling my workplace directly. My boss, Clayton, who I'd briefed that morning about the entire situation, had his assistant screen all calls from her number. She sent me multiple emails throughout the day and evening. I set up a filter to automatically archive them unread. She even called my parents down in Florida. They told her they fully supported their son's decision completely. Then she posted on Facebook, making everything public this time. Sometimes you don't know what you have until it's completely gone. I'm so sorry, Marcus. Please give me a chance to explain everything that happened. The comments were completely different now. Not the cheerleading and validation from her empowerment group members. Questions from old friends we'd known as a couple. Concerns from family members who cared about us. People asking what happened and if we were okay. But Sienna, Bailey, and Sutton were conspicuously completely silent. Tuesday morning, the official process server delivered the divorce papers to Natalie at her workplace. Her coworker later posted a vague Facebook status about watching someone's entire world crumble right there in the office during work hours. Natalie called me 47 times between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. I didn't answer a single one of them. That evening, she posted an Instagram story. I made terrible mistakes. I was influenced by people who didn't have my best interests at heart. Marcus, if you see this, please call me, please. The comments from her empowerment group members were notably completely absent from the post. Different voices appeared instead. People asking what happened and where her supportive friends were now. Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. sharp, aggressive doorbell ringing woke up the entire apartment. Wyatt answered the door to find Natalie's younger sister, Kendall, and her mother, Vivian, standing there looking determined and upset. We need to speak to Marcus, Kendall demanded firmly. Right now. He doesn't want any visitors. This is family. He needs to hear us out. I came to the door. I don't need to hear anything from anyone right now. Kendall stepped forward aggressively. She made a mistake, one mistake. You're seriously throwing away 9 entire years over one weekend? It wasn't one mistake, I said very calmly and clearly. It was 4 weeks of consistent choices. It was repeatedly lying about where she was going. It was taking off her wedding ring. It was telling complete strangers she was separated. Those aren't mistakes, Kendall. Those are deliberate decisions she made. Vivian, Natalie's mother, looked at me with exhausted, tired eyes. She's absolutely devastated. She hasn't eaten anything in 3 days straight. And I should care about the feelings of someone who clearly didn't care about mine when she was actively making those choices? You're being cruel, Kendall said accusingly. I'm being consistent. She wanted complete independence from my input and opinion. She has it now. Think about your future children together, Vivian said quietly. I'm not having children with someone I fundamentally don't trust anymore. I closed the door firmly. They pounded on it aggressively for another 5 minutes before finally giving up and leaving. Later that day, Kendall posted on Facebook about cold-hearted people who'd rather be right than happy. Vivian, surprisingly, left a comment that made me think she understood more than her daughter did. The full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." Maybe he understands loyalty better than you think. Kendall deleted the entire post an hour later. Thursday afternoon, I was working remotely from a coffee shop near Wyatt's apartment when 3 women suddenly slid into the booth across from me, completely uninvited. Sienna Bailey and Sutton. The Empowerment Circle. In person at last. We need to talk about what you're doing to Natalie, Sienna said directly. I closed my laptop very slowly. I'm not doing anything to Natalie. I'm removing myself from her life, which is exactly what she clearly said she wanted. She was just trying to find herself, Bailey protested weakly. And she found herself in a bar without her wedding ring, sitting with strange men, telling everyone she was single. Mission accomplished. You're punishing her for having friends, Sutton said. I pulled out my phone and showed them screenshots of their own public posts. The constant husband bashing. The encouragement to dump dead weight partners. The celebrations when members had marital problems. These are your own posts. You 3 collectively have 3 divorces, 5 broken engagements, 4 kids with absent fathers, 7 jobs lost between you in just the past year alone. But somehow you're qualified to give marriage advice? Sienna's face flushed bright red with anger. Our personal lives have nothing to do with... Your personal lives are exactly what you projected onto my wife. Misery loves company. You needed her to fail so you'd all feel better about your own failures. That's not fair, Bailey said weakly. You know what's not fair? Convincing a woman in a stable 9-year marriage to throw it all away so you'd feel better about yourselves. Sutton tried one more desperate angle. If she completely cuts us off, will you reconsider the divorce? You're asking if I'll take back a wife who only changes her behavior when faced with serious consequences? That's not real change, that's panic. The answer is no. I left cash for my coffee and walked out without looking back at them. That evening, I received an anonymous text from an unknown number. Someone had screenshot the empowerment group's private messages and sent them to me. Probably an ex-boyfriend or angry former member seeking revenge. The messages showed them panicking and blaming each other for how badly their advice had backfired in Natalie. Sienna, I told you guys she wasn't ready for full independence. Bailey, you're the one who kept saying men need to be taught lessons. Sutton, maybe we should have encouraged counseling instead of this. The empowerment circle was eating itself alive. Friday afternoon, I got an unexpected call from Natalie's boss, Clayton. He and I had met at several company social events over the years and had always gotten along well. Marcus, I'm calling as a professional courtesy. Natalie's work performance has declined significantly. She's missed 3 days this week. And today she broke down crying during an important client meeting. I know something serious is going on personally. Is there any possibility of reconciliation? I hate to see this affecting her career like this. The divorce is proceeding as planned. What she does with her career is entirely her choice to make. Understood, I had to ask. That evening, my old college roommate Griffin called me. Man, I saw Natalie at Target earlier today. She looked absolutely destroyed. Like physically different. What the hell happened? I explained the full story from beginning to end, holding nothing back. Jesus, Griffin said when I finished. I had no idea any of this was happening behind the scenes. She'd been telling people here, "You were being controlling and unreasonable." Of course she did. That was easier than admitting the truth to herself and everyone else. For what it's worth, seeing her now, she clearly knows she messed up badly. Knowing it and living with it are two completely different things. 2 weeks after I'd left the house, Natalie reached out requesting to meet in person. I agreed, choosing a neutral Caribou coffee location in Richfield, far from both our workplaces and homes. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table 15 minutes early. She looked like she hadn't slept properly in days. No makeup, clothes hanging loose on a frame that had noticeably lost considerable weight, hair pulled into a messy ponytail. I sat down across from her without ordering anything at all. "You said this was urgent. I need you to understand what happened to me." I was confused and lost. Those women made everything seem so simple, like you were the problem holding me back from being happy and fulfilled. And now I see they were actually the problem all along. I cut them all off completely. Blocked every one of them. Deleted Instagram entirely, everything. Good for you. You learned an important lesson about trust. She leaned forward desperately across the table. "So, we can work on fixing this? We can go to marriage counseling together?" "There's nothing to fix. It's already broken beyond repair." "But I changed. I see exactly what I did wrong now." "You changed because you faced serious consequences." That's not growth, Natalie. That's panic. Real, meaningful change happens before consequences arrive, not after they hit you. Tears started streaming down her face freely. "I love you. I never stopped loving you. You loved having me as a safety net while you experimented with being single. That's not the same thing as loving me as your husband. I wasn't experimenting with being single. I was trying to find myself. You found yourself in that bar without your wedding ring, telling men you were separated and available. You found exactly who you really are, deep down. That wasn't the real me. That was the wine. The pressure from the group influencing. Adults don't get to blame wine and peer pressure for their choices. You made conscious decisions. Own them." Her voice broke completely. "What do you want me to do? Get on my knees? Beg you to take me back? I want you to understand that actions have real consequences. You wanted independence and freedom for my input. You have it now. All of it. So that's it? 9 years means absolutely nothing to you? I stood up from the table. 9 years meant everything to me. Right up until you decided they didn't matter anymore. I walked out. Through the window, I could see her sitting there, sobbing into her hands. A barista approached her after a few minutes, probably asking if she was okay. She left without answering them. 2 weeks later, Harrison called with an update on the case. Natalie's attorney is requesting formal mediation. She's willing to let you keep the entire house outright if you'll agree to delay the divorce proceedings for 6 months. Why would she offer that? Between you and me, I think she's hoping you'll change your mind during a delay period and reconcile. No delay whatsoever. Standard equal division of everything. House gets sold, we split the proceeds down the middle. You're sure? The housing market's actually quite good right now. You could keep it and buy her out. I don't want anything that reminds me of who I thought she was. Over the following month, I watched from a distance as everything fell apart spectacularly for the empowerment group. Sienna's married professor got caught when his wife discovered their text messages. He faced disciplinary action at the University of Minnesota. And Sienna lost her side job doing social media management for his department. She posted a desperate status about being used and betrayed by men. Bailey's children's fathers both filed for formal custody evaluation, using her party lifestyle posts as direct evidence against her parenting. She made her account private and deleted most of her posts, eventually posting an apology for giving advice she wasn't qualified to give. Sutton's third fiancé called off their wedding after discovering the massive debt she'd accumulated from failed multi-level marketing scheme. Her engagement ring appeared on Facebook Marketplace 3 days later. She posted a long apology about encouraging behavior she couldn't live with herself. And Natalie posted her own public statement. I destroyed my marriage by listening to people who couldn't maintain their own relationships. I take full responsibility for everything. Marcus was right about absolutely everything. 3 months after I'd filed the paperwork, we met at the Hennepin County Courthouse for the final hearing. It was brief, procedural, almost anticlimactic after everything that had led to this moment. Natalie looked smaller than I remember. Paler. Older somehow. She tried to make eye contact with me several times during the proceedings. I looked straight ahead at the judge throughout. The judge reviewed the papers quickly. The marriage is hereby dissolved. Division of assets as agreed upon. 11 minutes total, 9 years of marriage, reduced to 11 minutes, and a judge's signature on legal document. Outside the courthouse, Natalie lingered by the steps while her attorney tried to gently guide her toward their car. Finally, she approached me directly before I could reach my vehicle in the parking lot. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes, please? What's left to say that hasn't already been said? That I understand now. That I see what I had and what I threw away for absolutely nothing. Good. Hold on to that understanding. It'll help you avoid making the same mistake with someone else in the future. You mean that? I mean in general, with friends, family, whoever comes next. Understanding that people have value before you lose them forever. Do you hate me? No, I don't hate you at all. Do you still love me? I thought about that carefully before answering honestly. I love who you were 9 years ago. I don't know who you are now. I'm trying to become a better person. Be better for yourself, not for me, not for any man. For you. Are you seeing anyone new? That's not your concern anymore. That's a yes then. That's a we're divorced now. My life is my own. She nodded slowly, accepting it finally. I see you sometimes around town. You look happy now. I am happy. I'm glad. I mean that sincerely. You deserve to be happy. So do you. Just not with me in the picture. If I had it to do over, but you don't. Nobody does. That's exactly why choices matter so much in life. Will you ever forgive me for what I did? I already have forgiven you. Forgiveness is for my own peace of mind, not for your comfort. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation or getting back together. What does it mean then? It means I hope you find what you're looking for in life. I hope you learn from this experience. I hope you become someone who values what they have. Just not with me in your life. We stood there in silence for a long moment. The spring sun was warm on my face. Somewhere nearby, someone was laughing. Life continuing on around us while ours together officially ended forever. Take care of yourself, Natalie. I walked to my car without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I could see her still standing on those courthouse steps, watching me drive away. Her attorney finally put a hand on her shoulder and guided her toward their car. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I'd successfully built an entirely new life from scratch. I'd moved into a small, modern condo in Minneapolis's North Loop neighborhood. Clean, modern, completely mine alone. Work had promoted me to senior analyst with a significant raise in salary. I'd reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while trying to manage the crisis of my failing marriage. Started coaching youth basketball at the YMCA. Saw Wyatt regularly. Our relationship stronger than it had been in years. And I was dating someone new. Nothing too serious yet, but something with genuine potential and promise. We'd met organically at a coffee shop, started talking about books we both enjoyed, discovered we had similar senses of humor and compatible life values. She was genuinely kind, honest, straightforward about what she wanted from life. Everything Natalie had stopped being. One Saturday afternoon, I was at the Whole Foods downtown when I saw her unexpectedly. Natalie was in the produce section with her mother, looking healthier than she had at the courthouse, but still carrying visible sadness in the way she moved and held herself. Our eyes met across the store. A brief moment of recognition. A small acknowledging nod from both of us. No conversation, no drama, no scene. Just two people who used to share an entire life together, now living completely separate existence. She continued shopping with her mother. I finished my shopping and left. Sometimes people who know the whole story ask if I ever regret how I handled everything. The answer is honestly no. Not the decision itself. I regret that it had to happen at all. I regret that she chose to listen to people who led her astray. I regret that 9 years ended in a courthouse in 11 minutes. But I absolutely don't regret refusing to be someone's backup plan. I don't regret demanding basic respect in my relationship. I don't regret showing her that choices carry real weight and lasting consequences. Natalie wanted complete independence. wanted to make choices without anyone questioning them, wanted freedom from accountability to anyone. She got exactly what she asked for. And honestly, so did I.
Story 4.
I, 28 male, just had the most surreal 72 hours of my life. Still processing everything, but I need to get this off my chest. Been with Meredith for 3 years. Thought we were solid. Our anniversary was coming up last Friday, and I'd planned this whole thing. Reservation at the steakhouse where we had our first date, tickets to see her favorite band, even arranged for her best friend to keep her schedule clear. Thursday afternoon, she texts me while I'm at work. Not even a call. Just, hey, about tomorrow, I've been thinking and I really need to cancel our plans. I called her immediately. She sounded annoyed, like I was bothering her. Look, I'm just not feeling it, she said. Then came the sigh. That dramatic, world-weary sigh. Christ, I just need someone who matches my energy, you know? You're sweet, but sometimes it's like we're on different wavelengths. I stayed quiet for a moment. So you're canceling our anniversary. Don't make it a thing. We can celebrate another time when I'm more in the mood. I understand, I said. And I hung up. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Her brother, Garrett. We're not close, but we game online sometimes. He'd sent me a message on Discord. Yo man, need to show you something. Can you hop on voice? I told him I was at work. Could he just send it? What came next was 6 photos. All from the previous weekend when Meredith said she was at her cousin's bachelorette party. The location tags were from a resort town 3 hours away. But there was no bachelorette party. There was Meredith and some guy. The photos weren't explicit, but they were intimate. Dinner at a fancy restaurant. Walking on the beach. His arm around her. A selfie of them at what looked like a wine tasting. The last one was them entering a hotel room together. Garrett's message. Saw this on my boy's Instagram story. Thought you should know. I already confronted her, but she said it's not what it looks like. I'm sorry, man. I stared at those photos for probably 10 minutes. Then I screenshot everything, backed them up to my cloud, and went back to work. That evening, Meredith texted asking if I was mad about canceling. I replied, not at all. Enjoy your evening. She sent back a bunch of question marks, but I didn't respond. Here's where it gets interesting. My coworker Delaney had noticed I was off all afternoon. We've worked together for 2 years, became pretty good friends. She asked if I wanted to grab a drink after work. I said yes. Over beers, I told her everything, showed her the photos. She was furious on my behalf. You know what, tomorrow's Friday. Let's do something fun. My treat. You shouldn't be alone on what was supposed to be your anniversary. So we made plans. Nothing romantic, just friends looking out for each other. We'd go to an arcade bar, play some games, eat terrible bar food, and help me forget about the whole mess. Friday came. Meredith texted me in the morning. Hey babe, thinking maybe we could do something low-key tonight instead? I replied, I already made other plans. Have a good weekend. She called immediately. I didn't answer. More texts. What other plans? Are you being petty? This is really immature. I muted her notifications and went to work. That night, Delaney and I hit up the arcade bar as planned. We were having a blast. She destroyed me at air hockey. I got revenge at skee-ball. We took a bunch of silly photos with the prizes we won, posted a few on my Instagram story. Just 2 friends having fun, nothing inappropriate. My phone started blowing up around 9 p.m. I checked, Meredith had seen the stories. The texts started flooding in. Who is she? Are you fucking serious right now? You're on a date? This is so disrespectful. We need to talk now. I ignored them all. Delaney noticed and asked if everything was okay. I showed her the texts. She laughed. The audacity, she said. Come on, let's get more drinks. We stayed until closing. Delaney made sure I got home safe. We Ubered. I was pretty drunk by then. She gave me a hug goodnight and said, "You deserve better than someone who cancels your anniversary to be with another dude." I woke up Saturday too. 23 missed calls, 89 text messages, 12 Instagram DMs, 5 Facebook messages, 3 emails, all from Meredith. The progression was something. 1 a.m. Please just talk to me. 2 a.m. This is so unlike you. 3 a.m. I can't believe you'd do this to us. 4 a.m. You're throwing away 3 years for some random girl? 5 a.m. I'm coming over. She actually did show up at my apartment at 5:47 a.m. Banged on the door until my neighbor threatened to call the cops. She finally left. Then came the Facebook post. Oh boy. She made this long public post about how I was a cheater, how I'd abandoned her on our anniversary to hook up with a coworker, how she was blindsided by his betrayal. Tagged me and everything. Her friends started commenting, calling me trash, saying she deserved better. The whole 9 yards. I didn't respond. Instead, I made my own post. Since we're airing things publicly now, I made anniversary plans. She canceled them, saying she needed someone who matches her energy. I accepted that and made other plans with a friend. If that's betrayal, then I'm guilty. P.S. Ask her about her cousin's bachelorette party last weekend. Then I posted one of Garrett's photos. The restaurant one. Nothing too damaging, but clearly showing her with another man. Tagged her brother for good measure. The comment section exploded. Garrett confirmed it was from last weekend. People started putting pieces together. Some of her friends deleted their nasty comments about me. Meredith called me screaming. Actually screaming. I hung up and blocked her number. Update 1, holy hell. This blew up. Thanks for all the support. Here's what's happened since. Saturday afternoon, Meredith showed up at my apartment again. This time with the guy from the photos. I'm not kidding. She brought him to my apartment. I saw them through my Ring camera. She was gesturing wildly. He looked uncomfortable. I didn't answer. She yelled through the door. I know you're in there. This is Trent. He's just a friend from my yoga class. Tell him what you told everyone. Tell him you think we're having an affair. Trent spoke up. Mer, maybe we should go? No, he needs to apologize for ruining my reputation. They stood there for 20 minutes. I recorded the whole thing. Trent tried to leave twice, but Meredith kept pulling him back. Finally, he just walked away. She followed him, still yelling. Then the texts started coming in from mutual friends. Apparently, Meredith was telling everyone that 1. The photos were photoshopped. 2. Her brother was trying to break us up because he never liked her. 3. I'd been planning to cheat with Delaney for months. 4. She canceled our anniversary because she sensed something was off. The thing is, Trent started talking. Turns out he thought they were dating. She told him she was single. He'd paid for that whole weekend trip thinking it was a romantic getaway. When he found out about me, he was pissed. He DM'd me on Instagram with receipts. Venmo transactions for the hotel? text messages where she called him babe, a screenshot where she said she was falling for him, restaurant reservations he'd made for 2 weeks from now. Dude was planning their 1-month anniversary, while she was with me for 3 years. I thanked him for the info. He apologized, said he had no idea. Honestly felt bad for the guy. Sunday night, Meredith's mom called me. We'd always gotten along well. She was crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I raised her better than this. Garrett told me everything. We're all just shocked." I told her it wasn't her fault. She asked if there was any chance of working things out. I said no, I understand, she said. "You're a good man, you deserved better." That hit harder than anything else. Monday morning, I get to work and there's a security alert. Meredith had shown up at my office at 7 a.m. demanding to see me. Security wouldn't let her in, badge access required. She told them she was my fiancée and there was a family emergency. My boss called me into his office. I explained the situation, showed him some of the texts. He was understanding, said they'd flag her as a security risk. "Take a few days if you need them," he offered. I said I was fine. Work was actually a good distraction. Delaney brought me coffee and a donut. "How you holding up?" "Better than expected, honestly." "Good. Oh, by the way, someone left like 50 comments on my Instagram calling me a homewrecker. I made my account private." Christ. I apologized, but she waved it off. "Not your fault, your ex is unhinged." That afternoon, I got a call from my landlord. Meredith had contacted them claiming she lived with me. She didn't, she had her own place, and that I'd illegally locked her out. She wanted a key to her apartment. Thankfully, my landlord called me first. I sent them a copy of my lease showing only my name. They told her to pound sand. The entitlement was astronomical. Update 2. This will probably be my last update. It's been a week since everything went down, and I think we've reached the conclusion of this disaster. Tuesday, Meredith's best friend Kendra reached out. She wanted to meet for coffee. I almost said no, but she'd always been cool with me, so I agreed. We met at a Starbucks. She looked exhausted. "I need you to know I had no idea," she started. "About Trent, about any of it. I thought she was at my cousin's bachelorette party. She used me as an alibi without telling me." Apparently, Meredith had been spiraling all week. She'd shown up at Kendra's apartment at 3 a.m., drunk, saying I'd ruined her life. She'd admitted to the affair but claimed it didn't count because she wasn't sure about us anymore. She actually said you should be grateful she was testing the waters before making a decision, Kendra said. I told her she was insane. Then came the kicker. Meredith had been doing this for 2 months. Not just with Trent. Kendra found out she'd been on dating apps, going on dates, the whole thing. All while living her normal life with me. She called it exploring her options, Kendra said. Like you were a job she was thinking of leaving. I asked why she was telling me this. Because you deserve to know. And because I'm done being her friend. This isn't the person I thought I knew. Wednesday, I got a package at work. No return address. Inside was a printed stack of papers. Screenshots of text conversations between Meredith and 3 different guys, all from the last few months, all explicitly romantic, sexual. There was a note, "Thought you should see these. She's been playing everyone." Trent apparently had done some digging of his own. One conversation stood out. From a month ago, Guy. So when are you going to break up with him? IDK, he's comfortable. Pays for a lot of stuff. Maybe after the holidays I can get one more good Christmas gift, lol. Cold. A girl's gotta look out for herself. I felt sick. Then angry. Then oddly relieved. At least I knew who she really was now. Thursday morning, 6 a.m. My doorbell rings. I check the camera. It's Meredith. She's holding a box. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. What do you want? I'm returning your stuff, she said. Her voice was hoarse. Can we talk, please? There's nothing to talk about. I made a mistake, several mistakes, but I love you. No, you don't. You don't get to tell me how I feel. She snapped. Then caught herself. Sorry, I'm sorry, Can you please just let me explain? Explain what? How you used me as a safety net while shopping for my replacement? How you told guys I was just comfortable and good for gifts? How you've been lying for months? Her face went white. How did you? Doesn't matter. We're done. Leave the box and go. She started crying. Not the dramatic, manipulative tears I'd seen before. Real, ugly crying. I fucked up. I know. I got scared. We were getting so serious and I panicked and decided to date multiple people instead of talking to me about it. I don't know what I was thinking. You were thinking you could have your cake and eat it too, except you got caught. She tried one more time. The girl from the photos, are you dating her now? That's none of your business, but no. She's a friend who was there for me when I needed one, unlike you. So there's a chance. No, there's not. Please leave. She set the box down and walked away. I waited until she drove off before grabbing it. Inside was maybe half my stuff. My favorite hoodie was missing. So was my PlayStation controller, petty to the end. That afternoon, I get a text from an unknown number. This is Trent. Thought you should know she just asked me to give her another chance. Said you two broke up and she's ready for something real. I told her to lose my number. Good luck, man. Friday. Yesterday was quiet. Too quiet. I should have known she was planning something. I get a call from my mom. Honey, what's this about you having anger issues? What? Turns out Meredith had found my mom on Facebook and messaged her. Told her she was concerned about my mental health and that I'd been displaying violent behavior and needed help. My mom, God bless her, didn't buy it for a second. I told her my son has never raised his voice, let alone his hand, to anyone. Then I blocked her. But she didn't stop there. She contacted my sister, my cousin, even my elderly grandmother. Same story to each one. Fortunately, my family knows me better than that. Garrett texted me. I'm so sorry about my sister. We've tried talking to her, but she's lost it. Dad's considering cutting her off financially if she doesn't get therapy. Here's the thing about Meredith. Her parents still paid for her car and insurance. At 27. She worked part-time at a boutique and spent most of her money on clothes and going out. I'd been paying for most of our dates, groceries when she stayed over, even some of her bills when she was short. Her dad called me that evening. I want to apologize for my daughter's behavior. It's unacceptable. We've given her an ultimatum. Therapy or we cut her off. She's 27, it's time she grew up. I thanked him and wished him luck. Last night, I went out with some friends I'd been neglecting during the relationship. Told them the whole story. One of them, Jake, shook his head. Dude, we tried to tell you. She was always asking when you'd propose, talking about ring sizes, but then flirting with other guys when you weren't around. We didn't know how to bring it up. Wish they'd tried harder, but I get it. No one wants to be the friend who causes drama. Delaney texted me. How you doing? Need another arcade night? I smiled. I'm good. Thanks for being there. That's what friends do. This morning, I woke up to one final text from Meredith. She'd used a friend's phone. I know you hate me, but I need you to know that I really did love you. I just loved myself more. I'm getting help. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I'm sitting here now in my quiet apartment, and I feel free. Like I dodged a bullet, a 3-year expensive, emotionally draining bullet. To everyone asking, yes, I changed my locks. Yes, I blocked her on everything. No, I'm not interested in dating right now. Delaney is a friend and will stay that way. I need time to figure out who I am without someone else's drama. Thank you all for the support. It's been a wild week, but I'm going to be okay. Better than okay, actually. For the first time in months, I'm actually looking forward to the future. My energy, it's all mine now. And it feels pretty damn good. Edit. For those asking about the photos her brother sent, yes, I still have them. No, I won't be sharing them beyond what I already did. I'm not interested in revenge or hurting her more than necessary. I just wanted the truth out there. And yes, Garrett is still my gaming buddy. He's actually been one of my biggest supporters through this. Family doesn't always mean blind loyalty, and I respect him for that.
Story 5.
I'll never forget the look on my sister's face when she introduced us to Rich. It was pure unadulterated desperation disguised as bliss. She'd been a single mom for years, and I guess she saw Rich and his 2 kids as a prepackaged solution. A perfect nuclear family, just add water. Isn't this wonderful, Mark? She'd gushed, pulling my 8-year-old nephew Luca into a group hug with Rich's sullen offspring. A real family. I looked at Rich's kids, Chloe and Mason, who were maybe 12 and 14. They were staring at Luca like he was a cockroach who'd just crawled into their cereal bowl. Luca just buried his face in his mom's side. Wonderful wasn't the word I would have used. The wedding was a blur of bad champagne and forced smiles. I spent the whole time watching Luca. He tried, I'll give him that. He tried to talk to his new step-siblings, tried to join their games. They'd just turn their backs on him, whispering to each other and snickering. Gwen, my sister, didn't see it. Or she didn't want to. She was too busy gazing at Rich, convinced she'd finally won the lottery. The first real alarm bell went off about 3 months later. I was killing time at the mall when I saw him. Luca. He was curled up on a bench by the big fountain, his small shoulders shaking. Luca, hey buddy, what's wrong? He looked up, his face blotchy and streaked with tears. Chloe and Mason told me to count all the pennies in the water, he whispered. They said it was a contest and they'd be right back. My blood ran cold. I'd been at the mall for nearly an hour. How long ago was that, buddy? He just shrugged, a fresh sob catching in his throat. I called Gwen. She was frantic, of course, but the second I told her Luca had been with his new siblings, her tone shifted. It became defensive. Annealed. When I brought Luca back to their new perfect house, Gwen met me at the door. Rich stood behind her arms, crossed, looking like a disapproving statue. He's fine, Mark. Thank you for finding him. She said it like Luca had just wandered off like he'd misplaced himself. Gwen, they left him there, I said, keeping my voice low. On purpose. He was terrified. Don't be so dramatic, she snapped. They're kids. They got distracted. Rich had a very serious talk with them. It won't happen again. Rich gave a single solemn nod from his post on the couch. A serious talk. Case closed. I wanted to shake her to scream Times, are you blind Times? But Luca was standing right there looking at the floor and I didn't want to make it worse. So I just left the knot in my stomach pulled tight. It happened again, of course. And again. Each time a new excuse. A new variation of kids will be kids. Years melted away. Luca grew taller but also quieter. He built a wall around himself and I was the only one he ever let inside. My apartment was his refuge. We'd build Legos, play video games, and for a few hours he'd almost seem like a normal kid. Then he'd have to go home and I'd see the light in his eyes just switch off. One Saturday he called me. He was 10. His voice was small and shaky. Uncle Mark, can you come get me? Where are you, Luca? The park. By the river. There was a pause. Please don't tell Mom I called you. I was there in 10 minutes. It was the same story, different setting. A game of hide and seek. They'd looked everywhere for him, then just gave up and went home. Left him there. A nice woman walking her dog had let him use her phone. On the drive back, I asked him why he didn't want me to tell his mom. He just stared out the passenger window, his reflection a sad, pale mask. She'll just get mad, he mumbled. At me? That was it for me. I dropped him at the front door, and when Gwen answered, I didn't wait for an invitation. I walked right in. I just picked your son up from the park, Gwen. He was abandoned. Again. Her face hardened. Why didn't he call us? Because he's scared of you. The words exploded out of me. He's scared you'll blame him. He's scared of what Rich will do. This has to stop. You are always trying to ruin this for me, she shrieked, her hands balled into fists. You have no right to come into my house and criticize my husband and my family. Your family is emotionally torturing your son, I said, my voice dangerously low. And you are letting them. He needs a mother who will actually protect him. That was the last time we had a real conversation for almost a year. We'd see each other at holidays, these tense, miserable affairs where we'd all pretend for my parents' sake. Now Luca is 13. He's a ghost. He barely speaks. He just exists in the corners of rooms, head down, hoodie up. We're at my parents' for the 4th of July barbecue. The whole miserable cast is here. Gwen and Rich are holding hands by the grill. Chloe and Mason are lounging on patio chairs, scrolling through their phones. And Luke is sitting on the bottom step of the porch alone, staring at an ant crawling across the stone. Hey, Mason says, walking over and clapping Luca on the back hard enough to make him jolt. We're going down to the creek to set off some M80S. You coming, loser? Luca looks up a flicker of something, hope, fear in his eyes. He glances at me. I give him a subtle shake of my head. Asterisk. Don't go. Asterisk. But Gwen sees the exchange. Oh, go on, sweetie, she calls out, her voice syrupy sweet. Go have fun with your brother and sister. She calls them that. Asterisk, brother and sister. Asterisk. It's like a knife twisting in my gut every single time. Luca gets up and follows them into the woods behind the house. I watch him go, feeling utterly helpless. An hour passes. Then 2, the sun dips below the trees. Neighborhood fireworks start popping in the distance. Then I see them. Chloe and Mason strolling out of the woods, laughing, their faces illuminated by their phones. They're alone. My chair scrapes against the patio stone as I stand. Where's Luca? Chloe rolls her eyes, not even looking up. How should I know? He wandered off or something. He's probably hiding to get attention, Mason adds, grabbing a can of soda from the cooler. Gwen waves a dismissive hand from across the yard. He'll turn up, Mark. Relax. You're going to give yourself an ulcer. I know. In the pit of my stomach, I know. I'm about to march into those woods myself when my phone buzzes. A local number I don't recognize. I answer it, my heart hammering against my ribs. Hello. A woman's voice rushed and panicked. Hello, I'm so sorry. I got your number off the emergency tag on his keychain. I found a boy down by the old quarry. He's soaking wet and shaking. He says his name is Luca. The quarry. That's 5 miles from here. Through dense dark woods. He said, the woman's voice cracks thick with pity. He said his brother and sister told him it was a shortcut home, and then they pushed him in. The world dissolved into a high-pitched ringing. Where are you? I managed my voice to strangers. She gave me the address, and I was in my car before I even hung up, leaving a chorus of confused questions from my family behind me. I found him huddled in the back of a stranger's minivan, wrapped in a pink fleece blanket, shivering so hard his teeth chattered. He wasn't just wet. He was covered in mud and green scum, smelling of stagnant water. His eyes were huge and vacant. The kind woman explained what happened, her voice trembling with rage on my behalf. I just nodded, scooped Luca into my arms. He felt so light, so fragile, and carried him to my car. I didn't say a word. There were no words. There was only a cold, hard certainty settling in my bones, solid as granite. I drove straight to my apartment. I didn't even glance at my parents' house as I passed. I got Luca into a hot shower, dressed him in my softest sweatshirt, and sat him on the couch with a mug of hot chocolate while I called my lawyer. Then I drove to Gwen's. She met me at the door, her face a mask of practiced concern. Mark, where have you been? We were getting worried. Is Luca with you? He is, I said, stepping past her into the sterile foyer. Rich was on the couch watching TV. His kids were nowhere to be seen. He's at my apartment. He's going to be staying there for a while. Gwen's face tightened. What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. Bring him home. I'm talking about the quarry, Gwen. I'm talking about your perfect stepkids pushing your son into 5 feet of freezing, filthy water and leaving him there to die. Rich muted the television. Gwen paled. That's not what happened. Chloe and Mason said he slipped. They got scared and ran for help. The lie was so bald, so pathetic, it didn't even make me angry. It just made me tired. No, they didn't. They told a stranger they didn't know where he was. They came back to the party and grabbed a soda. I'm done, Gwen. This is over. What is over, Rich said, finally getting off the couch. He tried to use his height to intimidate me, standing a little too close. I didn't even look at him. I looked at my sister. The pretending. I'm filing for custody. Emergency custody to start. Luca is not setting foot in this house again. Gwen laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. You can't be serious. You can't take my son away from me. He's times my son asterisk. Then you should have acted like it, I said, turning and walking out the door. He'll be hearing from my lawyer. The fight was uglier than I could have imagined. It was a smear campaign. I was unstable. I was jealous. I was trying to sabotage her marriage. Gwen and Rich threw every piece of mud they could manufacture. But they had one major problem, Luca. The court assigned a child psychologist, a gentle woman with kind eyes named Dr. Alvey. After just 3 sessions with Luca, she submitted her report. I read it in my lawyer's office, and the words on the page felt like punches to the gut. Asterisk. major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety, severe self-esteem issues stemming from a prolonged hostile home environment and perceived maternal neglect. Asterisk. Perceived maternal neglect. It was the most clinical, brutal way of saying his own mother had let this happen. The judge read the key findings aloud in the courtroom. Gwen sat ramrod straight, staring forward, her knuckles white where she gripped Rich's hand. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at the judge. She just stared at the wall as if trying to will a different reality into existence. When the judge said the words, "Custody is hereby granted to the petitioner, Mr. Mark Jensen," a sound escaped her, a tiny strangled gasp. I felt nothing. No triumph, no joy. Just a profound, aching relief. It was done. He was safe. The change in Luca was almost immediate. It was slow at first, like a plant turning toward the sun. He started sleeping through the night. He started talking at the dinner table, telling me about his day. One afternoon, I came home from work to find him in the living room with two friends from school laughing at some stupid video on his phone. The sound of his real, unguarded laughter hit me so hard I had to duck into the kitchen just to catch my breath. He was healing. He was thriving. About 6 months later, I ran into Gwen at the grocery store. I was in the cereal aisle trying to remember if Luca liked the one with marshmallows or not when I heard her voice. "Well, I hope you're happy?" I turned. She looked haggard. The perfect blonde hair was brassy and there were deep lines around her mouth I'd never seen before. "I am," I said simply. "Luca's happy. That's all that matters." "You ruined my family," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You tore it apart. Rich's kids feel terrible. You've put them through so much." I stared at her. I waited for her to mention Luca, to ask how he was to show 1 ounce of concern for the son she had lost. She didn't. It was all about her. Her family. Her husband. Her pain. The years of frustration of biting my tongue, of watching her willingly sacrifice her son on the altar of her own desperation, it all boiled over. "I didn't ruin your family, Gwen. You never had one. You had a fantasy, and you were willing to let Luca drown in it as long as you got to keep pretending." My voice was quiet, but it cut through the hum of the freezer cases. "He was a little boy who needed his mom to protect him, and you chose a man you barely knew instead. You failed him. At every turn, you failed him. Luca deserved a better mom than you." Something in her broke. Her face crumpled, and she started sobbing right there next to the Cheerios. "How could you say that to me?" she wailed, turning and fleeing down the aisle. The fallout was predictable. My parents called that night. My dad, quiet and grim, said, "You did what you had to do, son." My mom, crying softly, said she needed to hear it, Mark, even if it was cruel. But my other sister, Sarah, called an hour later, furious. "Was that really necessary to kick her when she's down? She's your sister?" "Luca's my nephew," I'd said. "Someone had to finally choose him." "I'm sorry, it had to be me." A week later, I got an email from Gwen. The subject line was simply, "I don't understand." The email was a long, rambling mess of self-pity. It was all about how hard she'd tried, how much she'd sacrificed to give Luca a real family, how I'd always been jealous, how I had manipulated a troubled boy and turned him against his own mother. It ended with a single line that told me everything I needed to know. Asterisk. "I just wanted us all to be happy, and you took that away from me." Asterisk. "Not times from us, asterisk. Not times from Luca, asterisk. From times me, asterisk." I deleted the email without replying. I walked into the living room where Luca was sketching in a notebook. The evening light catching the dust motes dancing in the air. He looked up and gave me a small, genuine smile. And I knew with a certainty that settled deep in my soul that I had done the right thing.
Story 6.
I'm 30 and watching rain roll down the glass. A letter is on my kitchen table. Shaky handwriting on inexpensive nursing home stationery. Dad wants to see me after 14 years in silence. Dying, he says. I apologize. Rain always reminds me of that night. The 22nd of October 2012. I recall coming home from school like any other Tuesday. Backpack over one shoulder. Brain full of my recently passed math test. I thought about supper, homework, and the band poster I wanted to buy with my birthday money, normal 6-year-old stuff. I had no notion that in less than 3 hours, I would be wandering alone in a frigid blizzard. Wondering if I would survive. When I entered that front door, I knew something was amiss. My father stood in the living room like a volcano poised to erupt. Raw flesh color was his face. He held a wad of cash and empty medication bottles with shaky hands. Madison, my sister, was behind him. She was 24 years older than me, and she looked anxious. Heartbroken, like a loyal elder sister who had just found something dreadful about her tiny sibling. I noticed her eyes. I saw that flash she couldn't hide. Satisfaction. Denise, our stepmother, stood in the kitchen doorway with her arms crossed and lips pursed, saying nothing. She was skilled at remaining silent during disasters. My father wouldn't let me drop my backpack. He screamed like I burned the house. I allegedly stole from his wallet for months. I was buying and hiding medications in my room, he said. Madison found the proof, he said. I have cash in my drawers. My closet pill bottles, texts proving I spoke to drug traffickers. I tried to explain. I claimed to have never touched his wallet. Never seen those drugs. Not even sure what he meant. I choked on the words when I realized something terrible. He didn't listen. His decision was made. Madison kept him fed falsehoods like poison wrapped in candy all day. She seemed devastated as she told him she tried so hard to help me. Urged me to quit. She didn't want to tell him. But she couldn't watch her younger sister harm herself. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. And my father believed every word. He bruised my arm and dragged me to the front door. My backpack was where I dropped it. It was scooped up and thrown against my chest so hard I fell backward. So he opened the door. Rain was falling in sheets. Distant thunder. The temperature has decreased 18 degrees since morning. Father stared me dead in the eyes and repeated those remarks. Leave my house. No need for a sick daughter. I was forced onto the porch. The door slammed. Deadbolt clicked. Suddenly, I was 16 and homeless. For maybe 6 minutes, I stood on that porch frozen. Shock. Not cold. I kept expecting the door to open. Hoping someone will say it was a major misunderstanding. Nobody came. My phone was on my bedroom desk. Only what I had in my hands could be grabbed. My backpack included textbooks, a half-eaten granola bar, and nothing practical for a night out. No jacket, money, or helpline. 2012. Payphones exist. But who has quarters? Not a 6-year-old who bought band posters with her stipend. Right? Priorities? Straight A student, poor survival skills. So I walked. I didn't plan where to go. My body moved automatically to the one secure spot I knew. House of my grandmother, Eleanor, 8 miles away. Mommy's mom. The one person who always valued me. Driving 8 miles doesn't seem far. Walking in freezing rain in canvas sneakers without a coat feels like 800. Route 11 was gloomy and rainy ahead. Without stopping, cars sped by. I was a roadside shadow nobody wanted to look at. After 1 mile, My clothes were soaked to the skin. My fingertips went numb after the second mile. My teeth were chattering so badly after the third mile I thought they could crack. I kept walking. What else can I do? Return and urge my father to believe me. Already decided. I could only move forward. One numb step at a time. Hypothermia isn't noticed until it's almost too late. Your body shuts down, your brain fogs up, and sitting for a minute feels like the finest decision. A brief break to gather your breath. My legs gave up after 5 miles. There was a mailbox ahead. I thought I'd lean against it, collect my breath, and continue. Grandma's house was 3 miles away. It was possible, but my knees buckled before I arrived. The gravel rose quickly, and all went dark. 4 hours after throwing his daughter into a storm, my father's phone rang. The caller was chilly and professional. County Police Officer Brooks. An incident occurred. His daughter was found unresponsive on Route 11 hypothermic. Taking her to County General Hospital. Please note that Child Protective Services has been alerted. A caseworker is present. We want to know why a 16-year-old girl was strolling alone in a storm without a coat or phone. We need you to bring your evidence to the hospital. My dad's face turned bone white. I learned from healthcare staff. They thought he appeared like a man watching his life slowly crumble. Madison was right next to him when the call came. The first time, her immaculate mask fell for a moment, but it was enough. It changed everything that night. The woman who found me asleep on the road was not a stranger driving home. Child Protective Services employed Diane Hensley for 32 years. She has witnessed every form of abuse, neglect, and lies parents tell about their kids. When she saw a teenage girl in the rain without a coat, phone, or searchers, she knew what she saw. She wouldn't tolerate it. My father thought he solved a problem that night. Thought he was cleaning house, removing the rotten apples, and protecting his family from a sick daughter who didn't deserve his affection. His real action was lighting a fuse. He had no idea what would explode. Before we continue, if you like the story, please subscribe and tell me where and when you're watching. I see everything. Many thanks for your help. To understand what happened that night and why my sister did what she did, let's go back to when everything fell apart. I lost my mother Margaret in 2008. Cancer. I am 12 years old. Madison was 16. Our mom baked pancakes on Sundays and braided my hair for school portraits. The next day, we stood by a hospital bed watching machines beep slowly until they stopped. My dad handled it poorly. To put it mildly, he collapsed like a dying star. Back from work, he sat in his recliner and stared at nothing. The house could have burned around him, and he could not have noticed. Madison rose to the occasion. At 16, she cooked dinner, wrote permission forms, and made sure I went to school on time. She became responsible, mature, and my father's dependable daughter. And he complimented her repeatedly. Madison, what would I do without you? Madison, you're mature. Madison, you keep this family together. He probably never questioned how she was managing our mother's loss. He expected her to manage everything else. My father had 2 blind spots. He liked his recliner and oldest daughter. He didn't realize they were worn out and coming apart. But they needed to be replaced. Men reclined. I swear. My father refused to see what happened while he wasn't looking. Madison went beyond stepping up. She built a kingdom. In her realm, I was the peasant she had to subdue. Started tiny. Mystery homework that vanished the night before. Field trip permission slips that never reached my teachers. My favorite clothing shrank in the wash. Another, then another. Oops. Must have been an accident. I sent my buddies birthday party invitations, but they never arrived. Lost classmate messages. A reputation developed without my knowledge. She'd go to my instructors with a sad, worried face, and tell them I was struggling after our mother's death, acting out at home, and that they should be patient with me. She portrayed a disturbed youngster, and everyone believed her, since she was mature, responsible, and kind. I once sat my father down and told him Madison was sabotaging me, lying about me to everyone, and something was very wrong. He looked at me like I was insane. He answered, "You're just jealous of your sister. She wants to aid this family. You should be grateful." I stopped talking after that. Stay small. Stay silent. Survive till I could escape. 2 years after my mother died, my father remarried. Denise was first polite. She laughed often, created casseroles, and tried hard to join our family. Madison instantly called her parents. I suppose it was purposeful to establish her status as the nice, devoted daughter. I couldn't. When my own mother had been gone for 2 years, I couldn't call this stranger mom. Not about Denise. My heart wasn't ready. But my silent rebellion cost me. Denise made me feel like an outsider in my own home after that. She and Madison started a club without me. At 16, the lines were apparent. Madison was the favored, golden child who could do no wrong. I was the problematic daughter who couldn't get it together. Money came next. Before her death, my mother established trust funds for us. $52,000 each. Available at 18. There was no riches, but it was something. A backup plan from a mother who knew she wouldn't be around to help us become adults. Madison, 18, received her share immediately in 2010. Within 10 months, it was gone. She has a sports car, fancy clothes, expensive gifts for Trevor, a smooth-talking, big ideas boyfriend, and no income. Madison was broke when I left 2 years later. Her trust fund was a distant memory, and Trevor was always talking about his next big investment scheme, the one that would make them rich. My $52,000 was untouchable until 2014, when I turned 18, unless something happened to me first. See, my mother's trust had a clause she presumably felt would safeguard us. If either daughter was legally incompetent or institutionalized before 22, a court-appointed family guardian would handle her share until she recovered. Madison and Trevor understood. If my father found drugs, cash, and drug dealing proof in my room and I was committed for substance misuse, someone would have to manage my trust fund. Someone reliable, like a caring elder sister who wanted the best for me. $52,000. Madison valued me that way. So she priced her sister. She began her plot the week before she destroyed my life. My father's ATM card withdrawals of small amounts. She knew his PIN because she managed household money. Saved Trevor's empty medication bottles. Prepaid burner phone from a convenience store with bogus texts. Madison entered my room on October 22nd and planted everything as I ate breakfast and thought about my math test. Cash in my dresser drawer, pills in my closet, and a burner phone number paper as proof of drug dealer contact. She then told our father his youngest daughter had a dreadful secret with tears in her eyes. Each word was believed. He'd. Why not? Madison was a perfect, responsible, and truthful daughter for 9 years. I was depicted as the disturbed one for 9 years before I saw the image. My trial ended when I entered the front door after school. The conviction was guilty, and exile followed. That got me on Route 11 inches October rain, walking toward my grandmother's house like it was the only light. However, Madison had made one minor blunder in her immaculate plan. She forgot Diane Hensley. My only memory of collapsing was gravel cutting my palms, and then nothing, like someone turning off a TV mid-story. Waking up is what I recall. Fluorescent lights, antiseptic and industrial floor cleaner fragrance, scratchy hospital blanket wrapped over me like I was vulnerable and worth preserving. I hadn't felt that in years. A woman sat by my bed. She had silver hair in a bun, reading glasses on her nose, and a paperback novel in her lap. She looked like a granny who baked cookies and carried Kleenex. Her keen eyes recorded everything they saw. She was Diane Hensley. She retired at 64 from Child Protective Services after 32 years. She has witnessed every form of child abuse, neglect, and cruelty directed by adults. On a cool October night, her headlights caught something by the roadside on her way home from a book group. Teenage girl unconscious, drenched, alone. Diane's tire squealed as she stopped. Her trunk held an emergency blanket. She wrapped me like a burrito while calling 911. A CPS practice. She waited with me for the paramedics. She followed the ambulance to the hospital and was there when I woke up 5 hours later. That woman may have rescued me. She discovered me before the hypothermia finished. But she was the right person at the right time. She gave me coffee when I woke up. Cafeteria, hospital coffee, at 200 degrees, it tastes like regret. This is awful, she remarked. The weather is warm. A laugh. He chuckled, and she smiled for the first time in hours or days. Her knowing, kind smile told me she understood more than I thought. There she is, she said. Please explain why a 16-year-old was strolling alone on Route 11 inches of storm without a coat or phone. I told her everything. The charges, fabricated proof, and Madison's years of manipulation. I told her things no one had heard before, since no one had listened. Diane sat, nodding occasionally, never interrupting or doubting. She was silent when I finished. She said, I believe you. And I'm going to help you prove it. Those 7 words changed my life. I was unconscious when things happened. The hospital called police after finding a youngster in danger. The police searched for my relative. My father had to be called. I wanted to see his face when Officer Brooks broke the news. It went like this. Apparently. Your 16-year-old daughter was found unconscious on Route 11, Mr. Callahan. She claims you forbade her from your home tonight during a storm. Hypothermia. The county general has her. You must enter. Child Protective Services was notified. Sir. A caseworker is present. Show your proof. Around 10:40 that night, my father and Madison arrived at the hospital. Now awake, I sat in my hospital bed with Diane. CPS caseworker Sofia Alvarez and a uniformed police officer were present. Not the welcome committee my father expected. He seemed frightened, not guilty quite yet. I was furious and puzzled. Like this was a major hassle. Madison was behind him. And I noticed her nervous for the first time. The smirk she had as I left was gone. They expected a fearful, sorry girl to confess her misdeeds and beg to return home. Instead, they discovered a room full of professionals asking tough questions about why a youngster was traveling alone in adverse conditions without communication or protection. Madison sensed the power shift. She tried her script. Worried elder sister. Younger sibling. The best for her is our goal. But Sofia Alvarez didn't agree. Madison was activating every alert on her deception radar after 27 years of social work. Next came my granny. Eleanor Reeves. 70. 5'1". Was determined and not in the mood for bullshit. As her only daughter and granddaughter, my mother never trusted my father or his new family. She lived 45 minutes from the hospital. At 28, she arrived. I heard her before I saw her, that click of sensible heels moving quickly down the hallway. She stormed into my room like a silver-haired hurricane and put herself between me and my father. "That's my granddaughter," she told everyone. "What did this fool do?" My father explained, justified, and discussed the stealing, drugs, and evidence. Eleanor held up one hand after 20 seconds of listening. She added, "Richard, I've known you for 16 years, and you've never been bright, but this could be your dumbest moment. You threw a child into a storm because? Suddenly pills. Suddenly available cash. Did you inquire about her side?" He opened, closed, and reopened his mouth. Eleanor nodded. "That was my thought. One thing about my grandmother. She defended me as well as loved me. I was fatigued and hypothermic in a hospital bed when Eleanor Reeves went to war that night. An emergency custody hearing was requested. Right then. It was nearly midnight. But she didn't care. She contacted a family court judge who owed her. Eleanor got him on the phone after 16 years on the PTA with his wife. The hospital social worker gave details. A little child thrown into bad weather. No pre-expulsion investigation. Not verifying accusations. A child with early-stage hypothermia is unconscious. No professional evaluated the father's evidence. My new home was by 110A. M. Emergency temporary guardianship was given to Eleanor Reeves immediately. My father was told to stay away from me until the investigation was complete. CPS would interview me, Madison, my father, Denise, and closely examine that evidence. My father tried again as we left the hospital. He grabbed me and spoke. Eleanor moved between us without stopping. "You cannot touch her," she said. "You cannot speak to her. You blew your chance to be her father. It was thrown into a storm. We're leaving." We went to her ancient Buick, which she had driven since before I was born, and she assisted me into the passenger seat and wrapped me in another blanket, even though the car heater was on full blast. I gazed at her while crying. "I have no clean clothes, Grandma. I have nothing." Her eyes were ferocious and tender as she patted my hand. "I have a Target card. Honey. Tomorrow we shop. Tonight, you eat soup and sleep in a bed nobody will ever throw out." My new life began that night. Grandma Eleanor's house has 4 rules. Breakfast at 8. Homework before TV. And no nonsense before her second coffee. Though small and unassuming, it was warm, cozy, and full of love. I breathed for the first time in years. But the tale continued. Not even close. The CPS investigator called my grandmother 12 days later. "You might want to sit down, Mrs. Reeves," Sophia Alvarez remarked. We examined Mr. Callahan's evidence. Madison didn't know her ideal plan was about to fail, and we obtained security footage that contradicts the timing. The investigation altered everything. Sophia Alvarez went beyond box checking. She was a cardigan detective. She tracked evidence, not simply examined it. Every receipt, timestamp, thread. Madison's ideal story disintegrated as she pulled. It started with money. $950 was in my dresser drawer. My father said it proved I stole from him for months. Clear cut. Right? Except Sophia Alvarez investigated bank records. My $950 came from a single ATM withdrawal on October 22. The day I was expelled. The bank gave machine surveillance film. Afternoon 3/6. It wasn't me on camera. It was Madison. Clear as day. A jacket she wore that morning. Same ponytail. Same background automobile. Her white vehicle with the bumper dent from backing into a mailbox last summer. A note on alibis. My hair was airtight. At 3:06 p.m. I was studying molecular bonds in 5th period chemistry on October 22nd. The school attendance system showed me a present till 3:30. My teacher recalled my covalent electron question. I couldn't withdraw that. Physically impossible. I was in a classroom 11 miles away with 28 witnesses and an electronic check-in. Madison felt she was smart. Criminal masterminds have this drawback. You must be smart. She used our father's ATM card without considering bank cameras. She withdrew in the afternoon without checking my alibi. On camera, she bought the burner phone at a convenience store 2 blocks from her gym in her yoga pants with her car in the parking lot. Certain masterminds wear capes. Madison wore Lululemon and got caught because she couldn't drive 12 minutes more. Pills followed. The bottles in my closet were from Trevor Barlow's prescription. Madison's lover, the idea man with no job. Doctor prescribed anxiety medicine filled at Oak Street drugstore. Sofia Alvarez contacted that pharmacy. Found anything intriguing. Trevor reported the tablets missing and filed a police report, stating someone entered into his car and stole them. Worried about citizen conduct. He filed that report 4 days after I was expelled. On October 26th. Why did Trevor wait 4 days to report the pill theft if it was stolen and placed in my room on October 22nd? The solution was clear. Since they weren't stolen. He planted them with Madison's permission and reported them lost to conceal their tracks and acquire a refill. The delayed theft report was like a neon sign saying, "We planned this." If this story hits home, stay tuned because what occurs next is worth every second. Please like it if you support me. The planet matters. Burner phone was the true evidence. A convenience store-bought prepaid phone from October 12th. 10 days before everything went down, sent bogus drug dealer texts. Sofia Alvarez found the store and requested security footage. A young woman with brown hair and a ponytail and athletic build paid cash, but her car was visible through the window. White automobile with bumper dent. The same automobile, woman, and breadcrumbs led back to my sister. As the investigation progressed, the picture got worse. Sofia Alvarez investigated my father's account checks from the past 2 years. Her discovery made $950 seem like pennies. My father's checks were forged for over 2 years. Starting little, 50 here, 100 there, they added up. The signatures were close but off. Trevor Barlow's business accounts received the funds. A little under $21,500 was stolen. Madison did more than frame me. After years of robbing our father blind, she needed me gone before anyone noticed. Eleanor, my grandma, wouldn't tolerate this. She hired Daniel Vance, a 30-year family law veteran and family friend. He knew my mother, Margaret, since grade school. Eleanor recounted what happened, and his countenance hardened, making me glad he was on my side. Daniel applied for permanent guardianship immediately. He sued Madison for fraud, mental distress, and everything else he could get, and he enhanced my trust fund protection so no one could touch it until I turned 18. That year taught me something I still use. Record everything. Record all receipts, messages, and promises. My grandmother stored all her critical documents in a folder. Letters, taxes, warranties, bills. She called it paper insurance. After everything, I repeated it. When I was 16, I bought my first filing cabinet. Keep and use it. Some habits are life-saving. Living with Grandma Eleanor was like breathing again after years of holding my breath. Her residence wasn't big or fancy. They had 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen that smelled like coffee and cinnamon. But it was warm, safe, and nobody was scheming against me. She put me at a new school where no one understood my history. This was my first meaningful friendship. People that liked me for myself, not because they were told who I was. I eventually processed years of manipulation without realizing it by seeing a counselor. Grandma Eleanor had few rules, but one was stringent. Dinner at 6. No exclusions. Chaos can wait till after meatloaf, she added. It was the best advice ever. My father's world was falling apart. The CPS probed the entire Callahan family. Richard was repeatedly questioned, becoming fatigued and bewildered. How had he missed so much? How had he been blind? Denise slept in the guest room. Their conversations grew hostile and full of accusations they didn't want to voice. Madison was enraged. Never remorseful. Only made her plan fail. She blamed others. Biased CPS investigator. The bank footage was misled. Trevor's prescriptions were misread. She couldn't take the golden child's crown sliding. Daniel Vance spent months making a solid case. Bank records, surveillance footage, medication records, phone receipts. He took testimony from Diane Hensley, my instructors, and neighbors who saw Madison's automobile at unusual hours. Madison's former acquaintances spoke forward. Over the years, she burned many bridges, and people were pleased to talk about her falsehoods, manipulation, and casual brutality. Court was scheduled for April 2012. A month before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Nevada arrested Trevor Barlow. Federal marshals arrested him for running the same investment scam in 3 states. He stole about $520,000 from victims' funds. Federal accusations might have landed him in prison for 17 years. His lawyer called the next day. Trevor was ready to negotiate and reveal the truth about everything, even his girlfriend Madison and what she did to her little sister. Madison had nowhere to run as the walls closed in. Trev Barlow was several things. A scam artist, liar, and man who lived off others' trust and money. He wasn't loyal. He sang like a record deal canary when federal prosecutors offered him a reduced sentence for cooperation. His statement was 14 pages. He verified everything. Madison always intended to frame me. She stole from our father for about 2 years, giving Trevor money for his investments. When she discovered her theft was tougher to disguise, she sought a scapegoat. That scapegoat was me. Madison considered me the ideal prey. The problematic younger sister who never fit in and nobody believed. She advised Trevor to institutionalize me to tackle 2 issues. Someone would be responsible for the money. My guardian would have access to my trust fund. $52,000. She wanted to steal something from me while I was drugged, discredited, and alone in a facility. Trevor documented everything. Planning sessions, pill bottles he provided, Madison's burner phone, the morning she put evidence in my room. He included their pre-October 22nd text messages. This wasn't impulsive. It was planned and frigid. I remembered his last line. Madison said her sister was a coward who wouldn't fight. She erred. April 2012. Family court. I lived with Grandma Eleanor for 6 months. I'd acquired a healthy weight. The sort from eating and sleeping. I made an honor roll at my new school. I was remembering being a typical adolescent. But entering that courtroom made me feel 16 again, afraid and little, and wondering whether anybody would believe me. Grandmother Eleanor grabbed my hand. Dan Vance nodded reassuringly. And Diane Hensley was sitting in the gallery with the same reading glasses and stern attitude as the night she found me. simple guardianship, making Eleanor's temporary custody permanent, and support requirements were the hearing's topics. It grew much bigger. The district attorney intervened. Trevor's confession and Sofia Alvarez's mound of evidence made this something more than a family court case. Criminal charges were pending. Madison sat across the courtroom from a public defender she met an hour earlier. She was paler and smaller. The confident, golden child who had run our household for a decade looked like a fearful young woman whose lies had caught up with her. Our father sat alone in the gallery. Denise declined the invitation. He appeared to be 12 years older in 6 months. Systematically, professionally, devastating proof was presented. ATM footage of Madison withdrawing at 3:06 p.m. School attendance records show I was in chemistry class then. The pharmacy records indicate Trevor's neatly delayed theft report. Security footage from the convenience store shows Madison buying the burner phone. $21,500 in fraudulent checks over 2 years. Trevor confessed. Read the record word for word. Madison tried to keep her tail straight, appearing puzzled, naive, and concerned about her troublesome sister when she testified. The prosecutor snapped. "Miss." She showed the ATM photo to Callahan. "Is this you at First National Bank at 3:06 p.m.? On October 22nd? Madison swallowed. She viewed herself as clear as day. "I was getting grocery money." "Groceries?" The prosecutor nodded slowly. $950 cash for groceries. "You didn't tell your father about this withdrawal when you accused your sister of taking that amount later that day." Silence. "Where this ATM is?" 11 miles from your sister's school. Her attendance records say she was at school until 3:30 p.m. How could she have left chemistry class? More silence. Madison's public defender objected, but there was no issue. Evidence was evidence. Facts ignored her feelings. They rang Denise. My stepmother seemed to want to be somewhere else. She had remained silent and indifferent for years. She was under oath in court. It was no longer possible to remain silent. She was asked about October 22nd morning by the prosecutor. Did she notice anything odd? Denise scarcely spoke. Around 7:20 a.m., Madison entered Claire's room. A hair tie was borrowed. Did she exit with a hair tie? She was empty-handed. Anything else in the days before the incident? Denise closed her eyes. She appeared to be preparing for impact. Madison was on the phone with Trevor 2 days prior. She said, "Everything is in place." She chuckled. The court was silent. When they called our father to testify, I nearly felt terrible for him. He had to explain why he threw his 6-year-old daughter into a storm without investigating the allegations. He admitted to not checking bank records. Never wondered why Madison found this proof abruptly. Never requested my explanation. His voice broke when he said, "I trusted her. My firstborn. She was always accountable." I believed he couldn't finish. Judge Lorraine Morrison served 28 years. She had witnessed ugly custody battles, harsh divorces, and families torn apart by lies, money, and pride. She was probably disturbed by what she heard. She slashed the courtroom with her remarks. "Mr. Callahan, trust does not justify negligence. Unverified claims caused you to expel a minor into dangerous weather. You didn't explore. You picked one daughter above another without proof, justification, or parental judgment. That's not parenting. Yes. Abandonment." As she continued, my father sat gray-faced. Your older daughter planned to kill her sister. She cheated, deceived, and tricked you into her brutality. You indulged her because it was easier to believe the daughter who made you feel wonderful than to parent the daughter who needed you. Madison received a harsh penalty. Fraud, theft, lying to police, child endangerment. Her public defender struck a plea deal to avoid trial. 3 years suspended sentence. 6 years of supervised probation. 240 hours of community service. Complete repayment of all stolen funds. $21,500 from our father. And $950 she planted to frame me. The judge granted a permanent restraining order. Madison could not reach me directly or indirectly. She would go to jail if she came within 600 feet of me. This part would follow her forever. Her felony conviction is permanent. Avoid finance, money, trust, and working with children or vulnerable persons. The golden child scarlet letter wouldn't come off. My father lost guardianship forever. He had to pay for my rehabilitation and education until I became 22. He was also ordered to start a college fund with reparations. The community learned everything. Small towns chat. In weeks, everyone knew what Richard Callahan did to his younger daughter. Friends stopped calling. Nearby residents ignored me. His church group started scheduling conflicts when he tried to attend. Denise divorced 8 weeks later. She realized she had contributed to my pain and couldn't tolerate seeing her spouse reminding her of it. The judge turned to me at the conclusion. "Miss Callahan," she added, "you've shown remarkable resilience in the face of extraordinary cruelty. The court gives Eleanor Reeves, your grandma, permanent custody. Your trust fund is safe until 18. I hope your future is better than your past." I wanted to say something creative and memorable. I wanted to say, "Your Honor, watch me parallel park. That's the ultimate test of character. But some jokes are for yourself." That moment was too great for humor. I said, "Thank you." My father tried to approach me one last time as we left the courthouse. He began, "Sweetheart." Grandma Eleanor stepped between us without stopping. Her voice froze. "No more calling her that. You lost that when you flung her into a storm." I continued walking, not looking back. The sun shone that day. April in our region is unpredictable. However, that afternoon was sunny and promising. My grandmother loved me. My lawyer battled for me. My caseworker and a retired CPS supervisor believed me when no one else would. Finally, I had a future. Some stories continue beyond court. Some stories have additional chapters. A letter arrived 14 years later. October 2026. I'm 30 and my life is nothing like I expected at 16. Walking through a storm with a school backpack and damp sneakers. I live in Boston. Beautiful harbor view apartment. Morning window light. It was my choice. Tech firm marketing director. Good pay. Perks. And people. I rose from an internship. And each advancement seemed like a departure from my past. Currently engaged. His name is Liam. You can tell a lot about his heart from his pediatric nursing career. We met at a charity event 2 years ago. Work brought me there. He cared and was there. After spilling wine over my dress, he apologized for 12 minutes and made me laugh so hard I forgot to be annoyed. We marry in spring. Life's good. Life is amazing. Then came the letter. It arrived at my grandmother's. Still smart at 84, Eleanor remains in the same house and follows her 4 rules. Breakfast at 8. Homework before TV. No bullshit before coffee. Some things never change. She called to tell me something important had come. She spoke carefully and neutrally, as if to avoid influencing my decisions. I drove down the weekend. Cheap white envelope with weak lettering. I hardly recognized. I was returned to Maple Grove Care Center, a nursing facility an hour from home. I opened it at Eleanor's kitchen table with a chilling cup of coffee. Dear Claire, it started. I know my requests are unworthy. You have every reason to discard this letter without reading it. I'm asking nonetheless since I'm running out of time and need to say this. I'm in Maple Grove. My stroke was 3 years ago. Less effective left side. Long gone, Denise. Transferred half her assets to Florida with an internet accountant. Sale of house. The life I thought I had is gone. Madison visited me last week. I barred her from the room. Can't look at her. I remember what I did do to her lies whenever I hear her voice. The only one I want to see and apologize to is you. I failed you as your father in the worst way. I trusted falsehoods. I chose comfort over justice. I discarded you like garbage. You owe me nothing. If you can find it in your heart to come once, I'd like to apologize in person before it's too late. Your dad, Richard. I sat there for a while. The coffee cooled. Afternoon light crossed the table. Eleanor remained silent. As usual. She waited and let me find my way. 14 years of solitude. Making a life without him. Did I owe him? I didn't. But my mother sprang to mind. I considered the person Mom raised me to be before her death. I considered ending cycles. I went. For me, not him. Expectations were met at the nursing facility. Fluorescent lighting, industrial floors, disinfectant masking endings aroma. My father's room was small. 1 bed, 1 window, a wall-mounted TV playing something nobody was watching. Despite being 75, he looked 20 years older. He could have passed for 90. He looked crumpled, colorless, and little after the stroke, which had taken something fundamental from him. He cried as I entered. Not speaking for the first few minutes, he sat with tears in his eyes while I stood by the door, wondering if I'd made a mistake. He found his voice eventually. He apologized repeatedly, stumbling over words because the stroke had also robbed his language. He admitted to being blind, dumb, and harsh. He called losing me his worst mistake. He recalled that October night daily. Every night. When it rained, I let him continue. Didn't interrupt or soothe him. I said what I came to say. I pardon you. His face shriveled in relief. But please grasp that. I sat on a chair near his bed. Made sure he saw me. I forgive without forgetting. It indicates I'm letting go of this rage. It weighs me down, and I'm done allowing you in. I was tossed into a maelstrom because you believed a lie. Convincing evidence made you doubt it. You trusted it because it was simpler. Madison boosted your self-esteem. So I reminded you of everything you lost when Mom died. You picked comfort over your daughter. I built my life without you. I self-financed college. Built a career. My groom would never throw me out in a rain, never alone a hurricane. My happiness, But you must accept your actions. I no longer shoulder that load. You own it." He nodded, still crying. He probably ran out of words. "I know." He succeeded. "I know. Just wanted you to know I apologize. I needed one last look." I stayed for 25 minutes. We chatted a little. More to say? I informed him about my job, apartment, Liam, Surface, and safe things. He listened as if it were his most important talk. As I left, he reached out with his good hand without grabbing. I let him touch my fingers. Then left. A nurse stopped me in the corridor. "Groceries?" The prosecutor nodded slowly. $950 cash for grocery. You didn't tell your father about this withdrawal when you accused your sister of taking that amount later that day. Silence. Where this ATM is? 11 miles from your sister's school. Her attendance records say she was at school until 3:30 p.m. How could she have left chemistry class? More silence. Madison's public defender objected, but there was no issue. Evidence was evidence. Facts ignored her feelings. They rang Denise. My stepmother seemed to want to be somewhere else. She had remained silent and indifferent for years. She was under oath in court. It was no longer possible to remain silent. She was asked about October 22nd morning by the prosecutor. Did she notice anything odd? Denise scarcely spoke. Around 7:20 a.m. Madison entered Claire's room. A hair tie was borrowed. Did she exit with a hair tie? She was empty-handed. Anything else in the days before the incident? Denise closed her eyes. She appeared to be preparing for impact. Madison was on the phone with Trevor 2 days prior. She said, "Everything is in place." She chuckled. The court was silent. When they called our father to testify, I nearly felt terrible for him. He had to explain why he threw his 6-year-old daughter into a storm without investigating the allegations. He admitted to not checking bank records. Never wondered why Madison found this proof abruptly. Never requested my explanation. His voice broke when he said, "I trusted her. My firstborn. She was always accountable. I believed he couldn't finish." Judge Lorraine Morrison served 28 years. She had witnessed ugly custody battles, harsh divorces, and families torn apart by lies, money, and pride. She was probably disturbed by what she heard. She slashed the courtroom with her remarks. "Mr. Callahan, trust does not justify negligence. Unverified claims caused you to expel a minor into dangerous weather. You didn't explore. You picked one daughter above another without proof, justification, or parental judgment. That's not parenting. Yes, abandonment." As she continued, my father sat gray-faced. "Your older daughter planned to kill her sister. She cheated, deceived, and tricked you into her brutality. You indulged her because it was easier to believe the daughter who made you feel wonderful than to parent the daughter who needed you. Madison received a harsh penalty. Fraud. Theft. Lying to police. Child endangerment. Her public defender struck a plea deal to avoid trial. 3 years suspended sentence. 6 years of supervised probation. 240 hours of community service. Complete repayment of all stolen funds. $21,500 from our father, and $950 she planted to frame me. The judge granted a permanent restraining order. Madison could not reach me directly or indirectly. She would go to jail if she came within 600 feet of me. This part would follow her forever. Her felony conviction is permanent. Avoid finance, money, trust, and working with children or vulnerable persons. The golden child's scarlet letter wouldn't come off. My father lost guardianship forever. He had to pay for my rehabilitation and education until I became 22. He was also ordered to start a college fund with reparations. The community learned everything. Small towns chat. In weeks, everyone knew what Richard Callahan did to his younger daughter. Friends stopped calling. Nearby residents ignored me. His church group started scheduling conflicts when he tried to attend. Denise divorced 8 weeks later. She realized she had contributed to my pain and couldn't tolerate seeing her spouse reminding her of it. The judge turned to me at the conclusion. "Miss Callahan," she added, "you've shown remarkable resilience in the face of extraordinary cruelty. The court gives Eleanor Reeves, your grandma, permanent custody. Your trust fund is safe until 18. I hope your future is better than your past." I wanted to say something creative and memorable. I wanted to say, "Your Honor, watch me parallel park." That's the ultimate test of character. But some jokes are for yourself. That moment was too great for humor. I said, "Thank you." My father tried to approach me one last time as we left the courthouse. He began, "Sweetheart." Grandma Eleanor stepped between us without stopping. Her voice froze. "No more calling her that. You lost that when you flung her into a storm." I continued walking. Not looking back. The sun shone that day. April in our region is unpredictable. However, that afternoon was sunny and promising. My grandmother loved me, my lawyer battled for me, my caseworker, and a retired CPS supervisor believed me when no one else would. Finally, I had a future. Some stories continue beyond court. Some stories have additional chapters. A letter arrived 14 years later. October 2026. I'm 30 and my life is nothing like I expected at 16. Walking through a storm with a school backpack and damp sneakers. I live in Boston. Beautiful Harborview apartment. Morning window light. It was my choice. Tech firm marketing director. Good pay, perks, and people. I rose from an internship, and each advancement seemed like a departure from my past. Currently engaged. His name is Liam. You can tell a lot about his heart from his pediatric nursing career. We met at a charity event 2 years ago. Work brought me there. He cared and was there. After spilling wine over my dress, he apologized for 12 minutes and made me laugh so hard I forgot to be annoyed. We marry in spring, life's good. Life is amazing. Then came the letter. It arrived at my grandmother's. Still smart at 84. Eleanor remains in the same house and follows her 4 rules. Breakfast at 8. Homework before TV. No bullshit before coffee. Some things never change. She called to tell me something important had come. She spoke carefully and neutrally, as if to avoid influencing my decisions. I drove down the weekend. Cheap white envelope with weak lettering. I hardly recognized. I was returned to Maple Grove Care Center, a nursing facility an hour from home. I opened it at Eleanor's kitchen table with a chilling cup of coffee. "Dear Claire." It started. I know my requests are unworthy. You have every reason to discard this letter without reading it. I'm asking nonetheless since I'm running out of time and need to say this. I'm in Maple Grove. My stroke was 3 years ago. Less effective left side. Long gone Denise. Transferred half her assets to Florida with an internet accountant. Sale of house. The life I thought I had is gone. Madison visited me last week. I barred her from the room. Can't look at her. I remember what I did do to her lies whenever I hear her voice. The only one I want to see and apologize to is you. I failed you as your father in the worst way. I trusted falsehoods. I chose comfort over justice. I discarded you like garbage. You owe me nothing. If you can find it in your heart to come once, I'd like to apologize in person before it's too late. Your dad, Richard. I sat there for a while. The coffee cooled. Afternoon light crossed the table. Eleanor remained silent. As usual, she waited and let me find my way. 14 years of solitude, making a life without him. Did I owe him? I didn't. But my mother sprang to mind. I considered the person Mom raised me to be before her death. I considered ending cycles. I went. For me. Not him. Expectations were met at the nursing facility. Fluorescent lighting, industrial floors. Disinfectant masking endings, aroma. My father's room was small. One bed. One window. A wall-mounted TV playing something nobody was watching. Despite being 75, he looked 20 years older. He could have passed for 90. He looked crumpled, colorless, and little after the stroke, which had taken something fundamental from him. He cried as I entered. Not speaking for the first few minutes, he sat with tears in his eyes while I stood by the door, wondering if I'd made a mistake. He found his voice eventually. He apologized repeatedly, stumbling over words because the stroke had also robbed his language. He admitted to being blind, dumb, and harsh. He called losing me his worst mistake. He recalled that October night daily. Every night, when it rained, I let him continue. Didn't interrupt or soothe him. I said what I came to say. I pardon you. His face shriveled in relief. But please grasp that. I sat on a chair near his bed. Made sure he saw me. I forgive without forgetting. It indicates I'm letting go of this rage. It weighs me down, and I'm done allowing you in. I was tossed into a maelstrom because you believed a lie. Convincing evidence made you doubt it. You trusted it because it was simpler. Madison boosted your self-esteem. So I reminded you of everything you lost when Mom died. You picked comfort over your daughter. I built my life without you. I self-financed college. Built a career. My groom would never throw me out in a rain. Never alone a hurricane. My happiness, but you must accept your actions. I no longer shoulder that load. You own it. He nodded. Still crying. He probably ran out of words. I know. He succeeded. I know. Just wanted you to know I apologized. I needed one last look. I stayed for 25 minutes. We chatted a little. More to say? I informed him about my job. apartment, Liam, surface, and safe things. He listened as if it were his most important talk. As I left, he reached out with his good hand without grabbing. I let him touch my fingers, then left. A nurse stopped me in the corridor. "You're his daughter?" I nodded. She looked at me and then at his chamber. "Your sister visited last week." I stood still as he refused to see her and urged us to send her away. He ignored her. Shaking her head, the nurse said he could only apologize to one daughter. Not her. It genuinely upset him. Said he couldn't look at her face without picturing her deeds. Not sure what to say. After years of being the rejected, throwaway daughter and unworthy, my father finally dismissed Madison, the golden kid, the favorite, and the one he trusted. Too late to matter or heal. Something changed in my chest. Different from forgiveness. I gave that. More like finishing, like flipping the last page of a long book. I left the nursing facility in October light. Weather and life change in the same month. 14 years ago. October brought rain, betrayal, and hypothermia. October brings pumpkin spice and falling leaves. I'm basic. Don't care. My real life start anniversary. Some storms redirect, not destroy. 14 years ago, I lost a house but discovered my home that October night. A father didn't deserve me, but a grandmother did. I found myself after losing a sibling who never loved me. When I returned to Boston, Liam was waiting. Countertop takeout containers. A bad movie was on TV. His calm expression when he realizes I need time to think. "How did it go?" he asked. My keys fell on the table and I leaned against him. "I think I'm finally done," I said. "I think I can let it go now." He hugged me without asking more. The Liam thing. He knows when to push and when to relax. One of 1,000 reasons I'm marrying him. My grandmother will host our wedding next spring. Simple ceremony. Close friends. Wonderful food. Eleanor began food planning. The list includes meatloaf. Madison works nights and wonders where her life went wrong. With regrets, my father is in a nursing home alone. Denise lives in Florida, pretending we never existed. But I'm in Boston. I have a career, a loving partner, and a grandmother who will probably outlive us all due to stubbornness. I finally framed the band poster. The one I bought with my stipend the week before it broke. I saw it online years ago. Too much money spent. I hung it in my office for daily viewing. Some things are worth waiting for. Many thanks for viewing. Your screen already shows more of my fascinating stories. Click now to avoid missing the finest part. You'll love it. See you next time.
Story 7.
10 years. For 10 years, I've been the ghost at the dinner table. The footnote in the family photo album. The thing my stepmother Ellen has to explain away at parties. Oh, that's just Carl. David's son from his first marriage. Her 4 kids, Mark, Jenna, Kyle, and Sophie, never let me forget it. They formed a wall the day she and my dad got married, and I've been on the outside ever since. They weren't just indifferent. They were hostile. It was a sport for them. My stuff would go missing. They'd lock me out of the house. They'd have inside jokes at the dinner table that always ended with the 4 of them laughing and me staring at my plate. Dad, he was a ghost too. always working, always traveling. He saw the family he wanted to see, a happy blended unit orchestrated by his perfect wife, Ellen. He didn't see the whispers or the glares. He just saw the smiling photos she staged. The worst part wasn't the pranks. It was the clarity. Last summer, we were all forced on one of Ellen's family bonding camping trips. I was trying to start a fire and the four of them were watching me from a picnic table. You know, Jenna said loud enough for me to hear, if a bear came into camp right now, it would totally go for him first. Kyle snorted. He's the weakest link. Then, Mark the oldest, the golden boy, delivered the final verdict. Honestly, I'd probably just watch. Let nature take its course. They all laughed. I looked over at them, the flickering lighter in my hand. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't even surprised. It was just confirming. They wouldn't just let me get mauled by a bear. They'd pull up a chair and crack open a beer. They'd made it clear 1,000 times. I was nothing to them. So when Ellen gathered us all in the living room 2 months ago, a manic beaming smile on her face, I already knew whatever was coming wasn't for me. "We have the most wonderful news," she announced, clapping her hands together. Mark was sitting beside his new fiancée, a woman named Jessica who looked perpetually terrified. Mark and Jessica have set a date. And she paused for dramatic effect, turning her high-wattage smile directly on me. Mark has asked Carl to be one of his groomsmen. The room went silent. I looked at Mark. His jaw was tight, a muscle twitching in his cheek. He wouldn't meet my eyes. This wasn't his idea. This was an Ellen production, starring her with the rest of us as unwilling props. "No," I said. Just that. One word. Ellen's smile didn't falter, but it became a blade. "Don't be silly, Carl." "Of course you will." "No, I won't," I repeated, standing up. "Congratulations on the wedding." I nodded at Jessica, who looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Then I turned and walked back to my room, the silence of the living room pressing in on my back. The next few weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Ellen started soft. She'd catch me in the kitchen, putting a gentle hand on my arm. "Honey, I know you and Mark have had your little squabbles over the years," she'd say, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. "But this is different. This is about family. It's about being there for your brother on the most important day of his life." "Mark is not my brother," I'd say, pulling my arm away. "He doesn't even like me." "That's not true. He loves you. You're all my children." It was like talking to a wall. A very well-dressed, delusional wall. When the soft approach didn't work, she escalated. She started leaving things on my bed. A magazine about wedding etiquette opened to the page about a groomsman's duties. A swatch of silky, god-awful burgundy fabric. A little note written in her perfect cursive times. "This will look so handsome on you, asterisk." I swept it all into the trash can. Then came the texts. Group chats I was added to without my consent. Asterisk. Groomsmen meeting re-bachelor party planning times, I'd immediately leave the group. A minute later, I'd get a private text from Ellen. Asterisk, "Carl, please don't be difficult." Asterisk. One night she ambushed me with my dad, catching us both as I was heading upstairs. "David, talk to your son," she said, her voice strained. "He's refusing to be in Mark's wedding. He's being so unreasonable." My dad, caught in the headlights as usual, just rubbed the back of his neck. "Come on, Carl. Just do it for your mother. It's one day. How hard can it be?" "It's not for her," I said, looking straight at Ellen. "And it's not one day, it's a lie. I'm not standing up there and pretending we're some big happy family for your friends." "We times are times a family," Ellen insisted, her voice rising. "Are we?" I shot back. "Ask Mark if he thinks we are. Ask him what he'd do if a bear showed up." Dad just looked confused. Ellen's face went pale for a second before the mask of maternal concern snapped back into place. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're being dramatic." I just shook my head and went to my room. The final straw came yesterday. It was a simple text from a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk. This is a reminder for the groomsmen of the Miller-Hansen wedding. Your suit fitting is scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, at 2:00 p.m. at Tuxedo Junction. Please be prompt. Asterisk. I stared at the phone. The sheer audacity. She'd gone ahead and scheduled it, assuming she could just bulldoze me into submission. I felt a cold, hard knot of defiance solidify in my gut. I typed back a simple reply, not to the group, but to Ellen. Asterisk, I will not be there. Asterisk. Her response was almost instantaneous. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. A minute later, my phone buzzed. Asterisk, what do you mean you won't be there? I've already paid the deposit, Carl. You have to go. Asterisk. I didn't reply. My phone buzzed again. A phone call. Asterisk, Ellen. Asterisk, I hit decline. It rang again immediately. I declined it again and put my phone on silent. For the next hour, it was quiet. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally gotten the message. That I wasn't her prop, she could move around her stage. I was actually starting to relax, lying on my bed with my headphones on, when I heard the sound of her SUV crunching up the gravel driveway way too fast. I pulled my headphones off. A car door slammed shut with enough force to rattle my window. Heavy, furious footsteps stomped up the front porch steps. The front door opened and slammed shut, shaking the whole house. I sat up, my heart starting to pound. Asterisk. Thump. 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 Asterisk. The sound of her footsteps hard and fast coming up the stairs. Coming for me. They stopped right outside my door. The house was dead silent. I held my breath, listening. Slowly, deliberately, the brass doorknob began to turn. The door flew open and slammed against the wall, making a new dent in the drywall. Ellen stood in the doorway, her chest heaving, her perfectly made-up face a mask of crimson rage. The gentle, manipulative matriarch was gone. This was the real her. What is the meaning of this? She hissed, her voice low and venomous. She took a step into my room, her eyes scanning the space as if looking for evidence of my betrayal. I paid a deposit, Carl. I made an appointment. You will be there tomorrow. No, I said, my own voice calm and quiet. I stayed seated on my bed. I knew that my stillness would infuriate her more than any shouting match. This is not a negotiation, she snapped, pointing a trembling finger at me. This is not about you and your teenage moods. This is about family. This is about showing a united front. There is no united front, I said, looking her straight in the eye. There's you, your 4 kids, my dad, and me. That's not a front. It's a battlefield, and I'm the only one who ever gets shot. Her jaw tightened. I have spent 10 years, times 10 years, times trying to make you feel like a part of this family. I have bent over backwards for you. I almost laughed. It was such a breathtaking lie. Bent over backwards? You mean ignoring the fact that your kids treat me like something they scraped off their shoe? They do not. They love you. You are just determined to be miserable, to make things difficult. Her voice was rising, cracking with a frantic energy. She started pacing the small space between my bed and my desk. This wedding has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Do you have any idea the kind of pressure I'm under? And there it was. The crack in the facade. The pressure you're under? I asked, my voice dangerously soft. I thought this was about Mark. Of course it's about Mark, she shrieked, whirling around to face me. But people are watching, my friends, David's business partners. They're all going to be there. They all know our story. They know about our beautiful blended family. She said the words, blended family, like it was the title of a novel she'd written. What are they going to think? She pleaded, her voice suddenly dropping into a desperate whine. Her whole body sagged. What is it going to look like if David's own son isn't even standing up there with his brother? It'll look like something is wrong. It will look bad, Carl. It will look so, so bad. She stared at me, her eyes wide and wet, and I saw it all. It wasn't about family. It wasn't about unity or brotherhood or love. It was about set dressing. It was about the optics. I was a prop. And my refusal to play my part was ruining her production. I was a loose thread threatening to unravel the perfect tapestry she'd spent a decade weaving. Something inside me, a tightly wound coil of 10 years of silence and swallowing my own rage, finally snapped. I stood up from the bed. I don't care, I said. The words were flat, devoid of heat. Just a simple statement of fact. I don't care how it looks. Her face crumpled in disbelief. What did you say? I don't care, I repeated, stepping towards her. About your friends. About my dad's partners. About your perfect picture. I am not going to stand up in a church and lie for you. It's not a lie, she cried, her hands balling into fists. He is your brother. That was it. That was the line. The final hypocritical, insane statement that pushed me over the edge. A cold, clear anger washed over me, sharpening every word before it left my mouth. My brother, I asked? My voice was no longer quiet. It was a blade. You mean the brother who stood 10 feet away from me last summer and told Jenna and Kyle he'd watch me get mauled to death by a bear? Ellen froze. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The color drained from her face, leaving 2 bright red blotches on her cheeks. I took another step closer, forcing her to look at me. He didn't just say it, Ellen. He described it. Honestly, he said, I'd probably just watch. Let nature take its course. And then your other 3 perfect children laughed. They thought it was hilarious. That's the brother you want me to celebrate. That's the family you need me to put on a burgundy tuxedo for. I let the question hang in the dead silent air of the room. I watched her manufactured reality shatter and fall to the floor in 1,000 pieces. I had taken her script, ripped it to shreds, and set it on fire. She had nothing. No defense. No denial. She knew it was true. Maybe she'd even overheard it herself and just filed it away under things to ignore. For a long moment, she just stared her mind, scrambling for a new tactic, a new angle of attack. Finally, she found one. She drew herself up a flicker of indignation, returning to her eyes. There is no reason, she said, her voice a brittle whisper, to use such vulgar language. It was pathetic. A defeated queen trying to critique the grammar of the man who just stormed her castle. She couldn't argue the substance, so she attacked the style. I didn't even bother to respond. I just held her gaze. The power had shifted completely. For the first time in 10 years, she wasn't looking at a nuisance to be managed. She was looking at someone who wouldn't break. The stalemate lasted a few more seconds before her eyes dropped to the floor. Defeated. Get out of my room, I said. She flinched, then turned without another word and walked out, leaving the door wide open. I listened to her footsteps, slower this time, retreat down the stairs. A few minutes later, I heard her SUV start up and crunch back down the driveway. I walked over and shut my door, the click of the latch echoing in the sudden, profound silence. It wasn't a victory that felt like a celebration. There was no joy, no rush of adrenaline. Just a heavy, hollow space where a decade of anxiety used to be. The fight was over for now. The burgundy swatch was still in the trash. The suit fitting would happen without me. I I had drawn a line. Not in the sand, but in solid rock. And for the first time, I felt the solid ground of my own well-being beneath my feet,